Hello, good morning. I'm starting the stream late because for reasons, so I'm gonna get started on this. Got my second coffee, definitely necessary. I'm gonna pop in the donut hole and see if who's around.
Place to hang from.
Hello, good
So,
morning. I'm
hey,
gonna
hey,
start streaming on Twitch if you guys want to join me in the other room. Just
yeah,
no
we can
no
do that.
obligation, just a heads up.
Okay.
Okay. So now we gotta pick what we're gonna do. Here's my reference images that I can pick from. Let's see. I don't know where I was. Actually, I wasn't going to paint this one. I need to make some choices here. I don't think I'm going to paint this one either. Some of these I feel like I'm saving for like a special occasion almost, because I really like the images and I want to be, good enough to do a good job with them. So do this one. This one looks great. We got a young Kate Blanchett, maybe. So image size 300 dpi and 7 inches tall. It looks like it's about 5.1 inches wide. So, given our dimensions here, 5.1, got a blank canvas that's the exact same resolution. And then when we select this image again and do the 2 up, then it ends up on the left. So now we're set. Okay. Tablet time. Oh, I've got to pull this up. And then I think I'm going to promote this on Instagram and see what happens. See if anybody pops in from IG. Waiting room for a stream. Why is Jay sitting in the waiting room? What's going on? Permissions. Everyone. Okay. All right. Got to promote it on Instagram, and then I'm gonna also throw it up on my x.com as well. Social media formerly known as Twitter. All right. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's see, I had a few ideas that I was talking through yesterday about what I wanted to do. Peter's streaming. Hey, Shiny Pudding. How's it going? I'm doing good. I've been here just about every day, every work day, doing a 1 to 2 hour study. And it's all been happening on Discord, but now I've expanded out into Twitch. So you can come voice chat with me over on the Discord. I'm going to put that in the chat real quick. Anyone who wants to come join me in the Discord can. This is my art educational Discord, Huckleberry Art Academy. And yeah, I was talking yesterday about how I had some ideas on what I wanted to do as far as studying goes today. I was thinking about how I wasn't happy with the kind of messiness that I was getting with a lot of my medium-sized brushstrokes. You know, the little tiny ones, they all kind of mush together and they start looking pretty good. It's no trouble at all trying to get it to feel like, you know, that it's, let me see. There's no trouble at all getting it to feel, sorry, I'm getting distracted by Discord, that it's like, you know, a lot of little brushstrokes coming together to form like tight and loose edges, you know, getting nice and painterly, whatever. It's easy, it feels good. The really, really broad stuff also, I feel like I'm totally happy with it. It's just that somewhere in between, it just starts to feel kind of gross and messy and not 100% satisfied with it. And I'm wondering if maybe I need to take it in a slightly more planar direction. Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks for following along. Are you an artist too? So one of the ideas I had is that I've been starting with these really, really large, very heavy construction marks, and I was thinking that maybe those are leading to me having leading me to have something that feels less like a defined drawing. Like I don't have the defined structure being quite precise enough to make the kind of blocky, semi-precise brushstrokes that I'm looking for in order to do the kind of rendering I'm thinking about. And so I am going to try to start things with a smaller and less opaque brush. See if that helps with the whole situation. I think the whole thing needs to get jogged forward a little bit, maybe. Is it the whole thing? Is it just that the body posture hasn't quite... Hey, Dustin. Started during COVID, mostly fan art, original character portraits. Yeah, hell yeah. So I started doing these studies like a month or so ago, a couple of months ago. Because I'd never done photo studies. I'd never done any kind of like focused study behavior like throughout my whole art career. And I immediately started feeling like I was getting like way better, way faster. And so I'm kind of trying to invite other people to join along. So if you wanted to, you know, pull up in Photoshop and try out a photo study, the way I'm doing it is I'm just pulling images off of Pinterest. And, you know, you could use a photo, you could use another painting, you could use whatever. And then pull it up on the second, pull it up the sort of arrange workspace here, 2 up vertical, with a canvas that's the same size, and then see how closely you can copy it over the course of like an hour or two. I think I've avoided these for a long time because I was just bad at them. And like I didn't want to feel embarrassed because I was like, well, I'm pretty good at like drawing my own original stuff. I'm going to just focus on the things I'm pretty good at and not at all worry about the things that I kind of stink at, like, you know, doing life drawing or, you know, studying from reference, things like that. But, you know, I've gotten older and more mature and less scared of failing. So I'm jumping into it and I'm just finding it like that I probably should have been doing it the whole time. Because, number one, it's actually really fun. Because there's like so little pressure to perform. Even though I'm doing this like live in front of an audience, it's like I still like I don't have to worry about whether or not this is going to be like so good that people are going to spend money on it. You know, it's just a study. It's just going to go into my hard drive, and like the main purpose of it is for me to like have the experience of it rather than for it to like make a finished image in the end. Yeah, I usually start streaming. You say you're at 12:30 p.m. I'm also Eastern Time, U.S. So I usually start at noon. I started like about 30 minutes late today. Just you know, having a little bit of a slow morning, I think. Oh, Toronto, way up there. Yeah, I'm on the opposite side. I'm down in Florida. So, same time zone, but geographically very far apart. Yeah, I'm definitely finding myself over time as I do more and more of these, just having an easier and easier time being able to spot when things are off. Too high, too low, off to the side, not like quite lined up. I would always get the sense that they were wrong-ish, but right-ish. And now I feel like I can see the ways in which they're wrong and make corrections much faster. And so it's like, I'm certain I'm off in some respects here. I'm going to see if I can, how close I can get off of my senses, and then I'm going to cheat a little bit to try to make some corrections so that like the later steps aren't going to get dragged down by some early nonsense. You know, I'm always running into a lot of Germans on the internet these days. I feel like Germany's taken over the digital art scene. Meet a lot of friendly German people. Even one of my friends on here who's in another chat room right now, Ashley, she's American living in Germany, at least for a little bit longer. I'm a bit of a morning person, so I tend to be like on these spaces, like usually earlier in the day. So I think there's a lot of Europeans still up the times. Like if I'm on at early morning U.S. East, it's like a nice, convenient time for the Germans to hang out. But I'm going to be doing noon Eastern for the foreseeable future. See if I can just get a routine going. The idea is to do 5 days a week, noon Eastern. Yeah. Hey, Adam, you want to come join me in chat? I'm like lonely in the room. Be nice to have someone to chit chat with. Do you want to pop on the Discord? Are you able to? Well, it's like Adam's a really good artist too. So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, you start to get pretty good. You start to get a little bit of an ego, and then you try to do something like a photo study and you totally whiff on it. It's like way more painful than like, if you never had any expectations for yourself. If you're just like an amateur and you give it a shot. You're like, well, guess what? Art's hard. Like you just go, I don't feel like it. But like if your whole career is art and then you try to do like a basic thing that like art students do all the time, do a study, and you stink at it, it's like existential, which is part of the reason I'm like so excited about attacking this problem is because like, it's like I love taking on difficult existential problems. Like those are the best ones. But I'm glad that Adam, you think that I'm so good at these and consistent with them, because it's like this whole thing was birthed out of me trying to do a live demo where I was doing a photo study. And it was like I decided to do the first photo study of my career like during a live stream in front of hundreds of people. And that was so rough. But like the roughness of it is what inspired me to want to do it. It's like, if I'm suddenly getting lost trying to find where I'm like where this thing's falling apart. The roughness of it was like really interesting because it's like as soon the experience of doing really bad in front of an audience was like super motivating in the sense that I was immediately interested in like doing better. I was like, okay, well that sucked really, really bad. That means I should probably get stronger. So I was like, I got to do the Goku gravity training, but for artists. And so that's sort of what this is. Hey, glad Seilu, glad you could finally join me. Oh, okay. Edene, man, you guys have the hardest names to pronounce. Hey, Adam, how's it going?
Hey. Good, how are you?
I'm gonna turn you down just a little bit. I'm doing good. So I got somebody in chat's asking for a description of how to do like the gradient map technique. I think I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into that in time. Like I'm probably about 30 minutes out from adding color to this thing, so I'm gonna work on it, and then I'm gonna get there. Man, Kate Blanchett over here is looking a little goofy. You're like hyping me up, telling me that I'm like good and consistent with these, and then now I'm like getting self-conscious and
I
also
don't know.
doing
Like
bad at it.
you've been really killing it lately. It's inspiring. Because yeah, dude, yesterday, oh my god,
So what happened? Like, what was the experience like?
it was like being thrown into a pool without ever having learned how to swim. It's so bizarre.
I thought you meant
'cause it's
like just like cold water. You mean like you just felt like you're drowning
yeah, I just
artistically?
felt like every like habit that I've developed in my normal workflow was just not applying.
Oh, this is not bad at all. Look at this. This is shockingly close. Just
Oh yeah.
the face is like absolutely melting off. It looks like she's getting hit by a nuclear blast. Like it's blowing backwards.
Yeah, everything else is pretty good.
I keep getting closer and closer. Like the more of these I do, that's like one of the biggest things. Is like I found myself, and did you have this too, where you're like, you think like, oh, I should be able to figure out where like the ear is, and you like lay it in, and then you check it later, and you discover that it's like completely on the other side of the head. You've like
Yeah,
you
it's
totally
like
whiffed
out of
all
orbit.
the location of the features.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, it does feel like it's a different skill set that if you don't develop drawing what you see, it like you could draw from imagination all your life, but it's like if you're not putting effort into developing the actually drawing what you see, it's just not going to get better.
I do wonder if the drawing what you see thing helps with the drawing from imagination in some respects as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that because you said that you've been like clearly you've been improving your photo study skill quite dramatically the past month or so.
Yeah.
Have you found that like what parts of that improvement have you seen bleed into your regular
Well,
painting practice?
one of the biggest like points where I was like, "Oh man, this is huge," was when I tried to do a demo. Like 1 week, I tried to do a demo where I was just drawing like a character out of my imagination, and then after a couple of weeks of doing photo studies, I tried to do it again, and my ability to like draw a character from imagination, like a face, went like through the roof. Like they just absorbed subconsciously so many like lessons about facial anatomy that like when I went to go, you know, do it like doing it from imagination, it's just like you have a general sense of where things are, but then you spend a lot of cycles making little corrections, like tons and tons of little corrections all over the place.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then after doing the photo studies where I'd like been absorbing a lot of stuff just kind of passively, because it's not just the getting the accuracy from the reference that I'm aiming for. It's like I want to be able to draw people better.
Yes.
And I found that I was able to draw characters from my imagination much more intuitively after spending a couple weeks just like having a really intense look at people. Like
Interesting.
I keep, I'm studying mostly like fashion photos. And so I'm getting a lot of dynamic character poses and like facial anatomy. Something that like, the facial anatomy thing does not come up so much in my day-to-day work. And so like just having a couple of weeks of refresher on it, I felt like tremendously stronger. And I was like, what happens if it's not 2 weeks? What happens if it's a year? Like what does a year's worth of photo studies do to my ability to like intuitively be able to reproduce likenesses, draw the same character multiple times and like, in different poses and like from different angles? Like how much do the sort of soft skills of this translate over into these other pursuits that I've got going on?
Right. Yeah, and imagine the fact that you have already such a developed skill of drawing from imagination gives you more skill to hang knowledge off of as you're acquiring like the details of the facial anatomy and stuff like that. I feel like you're able to apply it a lot more because you have that.
But it's like it's not like it's coming through in the form of like a really conscious understanding of facial anatomy. It's not like I'm learning new facts about facial anatomy. It's like academically I know all these things. But it's like it's the intuitive understanding, being able to like intuitively find my way through the anatomy and like have a sense of like this should go here, this should go here, and then being right, like largely right when it comes to like time to refine everything. You know,
That's really cool. Because I mean, I think that one of the reasons I've avoided photo studies completely is because I was like, okay, well, you know, if I learn how to draw this photo in this pose, I'm going to get better at doing that one exact thing, and that's not going to apply to anything else. That was kind of my attitude.
I think that if you are drawing something like if you're doing studies of the kinds of subjects that you're drawing from imagination, you are going to get better at drawing them from imagination through like a kind of subconscious absorption.
Right.
And it's not the sort of thing I think you just learn and then you have. I think it's something that you also need to like maintain, which is I've not been doing. Like I have been resting on my laurels hard for years. So it's been, you know, I keep thinking, oh, I'll get really serious about doing studies or whatever, like life drawing, you know, when I'm a little older, you know, and I don't need to worry so much about producing content, you know, for my Patreon and whatnot. I'll be able to just, I'll once I'm like more once I've got like everything more on autopilot, that's when I'll really become more of like a fine artist and I'll start to learn these things. But you know, I just want to be better at this stuff. Like I don't like my skill level for it. I want to be better for no other reason than I just as like a totally selfish pursuit. I just want to be better at it. Like I think I could probably get by for the rest of my career without learning anything else, to be honest. Because I think that like the skills that ultimately matter for like, you know, the success in my job, like don't require me to be better at technical painting. But I really like learning painting.
Yeah, I mean that's well. The thing is too, if you're having, you said you've been. I mean, you wouldn't be doing this every single day if you didn't enjoy it,
Right.
in a way that you know you weren't getting from just producing what you know.
Let's see. I've got to start making some choices, I think, because it's like the more I make distinct choices about the way I'm doing the study, the happier I am with it later. Like one of the things I found really enjoyable about this process is, you know, there's like the passive learning sort of thing where I'm just like picking up, like, oh, I can spot the accuracy on like from the photo better and better over time, and it's like easier to do. But the other thing is like I'm getting to try out all these stylistic flourishes that I have always thought about, but could never quite figure out how they fit into whatever painting I'm working on. Because you know, like the paint, whenever you have a painting in front of you, it has certain demands, and you need to like fulfill those demands, otherwise the painting looks like shit. And so you can try out some things sometimes, but you're not always able to try out everything all the time. But with the photo studies, you just go like, well, who cares? Like, there's nothing creative that needs to be done. It's like, in terms of like the way that the figure's supposed to look, you know. So you already have like the most realistic version of it already established. So now you have this opportunity to be able to like screw around, and you know, if you want to start doing like weird stuff with values or colors or whatever, like you can do it in context of like this thing that already you can always cheat off the back of the box.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I've noticed with your like with your studies, it's like yeah, you're doing a photo study, but you also add that Pete Mohrbacher touch to it. That's you break the reference in certain aspects. You're not afraid to do that.
Yeah, I mean sometimes I've done like really close to the reference, and I look at those and I just go like, boy, I sure do suck at painting. Like it's just I feel bad about them because like they're not that photo accurate, and they don't feel like a nicely stylized, interesting, like natural painting. They just feel like a kind of chunkier, photoshopified version of like a better photo. But then like when I really get into the style of it and I make some bigger swings, and if I get even like a glancing hit on them, I go like, there's something in here that I feel like I'm really proud of, and I enjoy the hell out of it. Oh,
Yeah.
got a Prime sub. Thank you so much, Alice Killer. You guys, your names are impossible. Alice Killer Yeah, and then there was one before I went live this morning. Alanix, thank you so much. I didn't realize that there was like I was going to get subs. I was doing this mostly just to like widen the availability of people who wanted to like watch and study along while I was working on these, because I was been doing them on Discord. And then when I got an opportunity to be a Twitch affiliate, I was like, oh hey, like that could widen the scope of this thing in an interesting way. So one of the things I've been thinking about is like, yeah, you ever see people do that thing where they paint and they like break it down into planes, and it like has that chunky planar look? I always like that look. I was wondering if maybe like that's what I need to do more of when it comes to like my looser areas, instead of just letting them get like really really loose and grody looking, like breaking them down into like sort of more planar areas. Like let's look at this arm, for example. Like I could figure out how to put in a billion little tiny brushstrokes to get this like highlight to slowly fade as it goes up the arm, and like soft blending through here, and like the darker, harder edges across the bottom, and the way it kind of fades up around as it gets to the elbow, inside the inner crook of the elbow here. You know, I can spot all those things and I can like slowly mash them together. But like, and then like all these little folds at the wrist, like given enough time, I can make all that happen. Like that's not a concern. But that's not stylistically very interesting, and it's super inefficient. Because like as a study, like what am I doing? I don't need to study like gradually gradating like a shadow at the edge of a wrist. You know, who cares? So I'm thinking like I should come up with some better solutions for having really efficient ways of like expressing like simple shapes on a figure. Like a good artist does.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have these thoughts too? I mean, you are a slow painter, I think. Not as a criticism, but like I think you would think. Do you think of yourself as a slow painter?
Oh, that's my primary identity as a painter is slow.
As a slow guy.
Yeah, which I don't like. I do want to figure out. I feel like it's because I just lack the mileage and the knowledge of how to work more intelligently. It's something I want to improve, because it's the biggest thing that holds me back.
People accuse me of being a fast painter all the time, but like you talk about like having like an efficient way of doing stuff. It's just like I don't really. I have like I've gotten just efficient enough to be kind of satisfied with it, and then I stopped trying to build up skills to like get further. And so now that I'm like confronted with like, okay, well, what do I do with an arm in this situation? I'm now trying to think about like building new skills that allow me to like get past the point that I'm currently at.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But I don't know how. I wonder, like, I've had this idea of making some educational content, but I like one of the things for research is like I need to like look up other people's stuff. I should like now that I have these questions that are being raised by these studies, I wonder if I should go and like download some of the tutorials from all the people that, artists on the server are always praising and see if maybe they've got some insights into the stuff that I'm specifically struggling with.
What would you say is like specifically what you feel like you're struggling with? What are the things
It's that efficiency idea. Like, how do I, like, right now I'm thinking, like, how do I break this down into planes that are, like, representing it clearly? Like, right now I feel like I'm just doing this, what do you call that thing? A threshold? Well, not threshold. What's the other one?
Oh, like just like separating things into just white and black.
Not just white and black, but is it posterize? Posterize.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, it's like that's like the designing the shapes of light and dark in a way that they're just flat color.
Because it's like I can go and do posterize on the reference, and I can start to see, like, okay, well, if we were to break Kate's arm down into 3 tones here, highlight, midtone, shadow, like that's going to give me some pretty like obvious shapes right there.
Yes.
Right? And so if I were to trace this all out like it was a piece of graffiti art, like it was a stencil, I could make this photographic looking stencil with very few colors. Fine.
Yeah.
I don't think that looks that good. What I'm thinking about instead is like, what does the low poly version of this figure look like? And then if I were to be constructing like this arm out of like low poly instead of just like posterizing it, like what, like I think that's the look that I want to go for, rather than just looking at the shades of light and dark. I feel like the necessary step to make it more efficient is to actually break it down geometrically and to consider its 3-dimensional structure rather than just its like patterns of value. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's what you're doing. Like I'm looking at the shape of light, because the problem with posterize is it doesn't design the shapes. It just makes a mathematical assessment of the light and dark, and then
Right.
makes it kind of soupy. Whereas you, like the way you design the light on the forearm, it follows the shape of the arm, but it also designs the shape in a way that just looks nice. And I think you've built up a intuitive feeling of what shapes look good just from pure experience. And I think that's
Maybe.
I think if you look at like tutorials of people who talk about, designing shapes of light and dark, like people like Leyendecker do this a lot, where the shapes of light and dark, they make sense as they relate to the form of the object, but they also are designed to look good as an abstract piece.
I suppose. I don't think I was breaking things down geometrically though. I think I'm largely just kind of trying to posterize them in my head.
Right.
And so like I'm going to try to challenge myself a little bit today to see if I can actually break them down a little bit geometrically and separate out these like planar areas a little bit more, in the hopes that it will give me a look that is like, it's probably something I'm going to suck at today, and it's going to be a little bit slower, but I'm going to see if it's something that I try to do a couple of times, it might turn into a skill that allows me to really efficiently break down a figure in a way that's going to like be really appealing looking and like less messy. Like I want to be able to I'm working with a textured brush because I like a certain amount of imprecision in the overall look of the thing. It's just, I was looking at I was doing a little review of my studies. This one I thought was kind of instructive because it's like all the really rough grainy stuff I like the look of it broadly. Oh, let me screen share on Twitch too, or on Discord too, so you have an easier time. Oh. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. So like the rougher areas, I'm really satisfied with, and then I like that there's like these rougher painty areas, and then these other bits that have gotten like much smoother gradient. Like the balance of like tighter marks with this like softer shading on like the hair and around the face mask, I think came out in a way I really like. And I feel like there's moments where it starts to get brushy that I'm pretty satisfied with it, but there's a lot of moments where the brushiness doesn't feel like it's accumulating into like a cool pattern of like shape and texture. It's just a messy like pile of shit.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And then, I'm getting that some in the color too, where like, I'm getting these muddy shadows as opposed to like using mixing like these oranges and teals together to like get like on the front side of the torso here, I'm getting something that's like starting to come together color wise, and then on the back side less so. And I'm thinking like I would like to be able to have every element of this, whether it's loose or tight, smooth or chunky, to be done on purpose that way, as opposed to it just kind of like I put in a ton of loose brushstrokes and then I, over the course of a 2-hour period, try to make some areas like tighter by just making smaller and smaller brushstrokes. Like I want to have the looser areas feel like intentionally loose. This is one from a couple days ago. Like this, I got a lot tighter on the face than I thought it was going to get, and I was pretty satisfied with elements of it. And then I just I reduced down. I try to be a little bit more purposeful in the way I reduce down like the patterns and like the really complicated spiky shapes. And it started to like come together in a way I was pretty satisfied with. I think one of the things I need to do is I need to experiment with brushes a little bit. But like, I have this really even amount of shading across the entire face where it's like everything is kind of equal levels of detail. It gets a little bit blockier towards the neck or whatever, but it's not actually, it is just sort of posterizing everything rather than me breaking it down into simpler or more complex areas, which is not a problem I'd ever really considered before, because I figure that like my solution for painting when I'm doing my own stuff from imagination is to just, keep rendering. So it's like all kind of smoothish.
Right.
It's easy. It's easy to, if you are willing to spend 60 hours rendering little tiny brushstrokes, eventually you get to a point where everything looks like it's supposed to be where it is.
Right. Yeah.
This feeling very well.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a better way.
Right.
And like we also have like hundreds of years of art history to draw from to be able to like solve this problem. So yeah, like I think there's probably some, now that I'm like, the first month or two has been like, not only have I felt like I've developed these kind of soft skills, but I'm now starting to get these larger questions that I'm convinced I don't have the answers to. And and that's really interesting, because it's like it's opening up these questions that have previously not even been a question. I've just glazed over them, completely ignoring their existence up to this point.
Yeah, I mean I feel like the fact that you're able to, the nice thing about like a study, like you said, you kind of knock it out in 1 or 2 hours, is that you get to make these questions consciously aware to yourself, because you're going through the mileage.
Well, like I was asking these things yesterday, and now like I'm like, okay, well, I'll look at it tomorrow in tomorrow's study. And so here I am, like less than a day later, and I'm like, oh, I can remember what those questions were that I was asking of myself, and I can safely go ahead and see what happens if I experiment with them a little bit. I don't know if I should make these tighter shadows at the edges if I'm gonna try to like make this blockier. Maybe it's like, I've never tried to like make something blockier but also like accurately rendered. Because like typically I once I start getting a few blocky marks down, I start dropping the opacity on the brush and then like letting each of these shapes kind of mush into each other.
Yeah.
But to try to like retain some of their integrity by keeping the brush opacity up but reshaping them is kind of a new experience. But they can be kind of like, I think they can be kind of curvy planes too, right? Like the light can, it's not like I'm trying to make like a lattice work of like single color panes. I'm trying, like I can still kind of like blend and push them around. I think. I don't know, man. It's all very mysterious to me.
Well, that's good. That's good that you're in the realm of the mysterious again.
It is a little harrowing though that like I'm doing it just like promoted across social media. Hey, come check me out. I'm about to go do some stuff.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, yeah, okay, come learn along with me. And I'm over here going like, damn, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I think that's the perfect time to learn from somebody as they're figuring out themselves.
Maybe.
I think a lot of expert. Well, this is why you see some really, really good painters that are bad teachers, and some painters that are okay that are really good teachers. Because I think it's a lot of people who are really intuitively good don't know how to articulate what they're doing unless they're in the middle of learning it themselves.
Yeah, sometimes. I've definitely met plenty of really incredible artists that don't have a ton of insight into their own ability. I definitely feel like I'm losing insight over time into my own skill set because there's just so much that I've become comfortable with over the years that I just don't feel like is like, there's nothing to comment on. I'm like, and then you just do all the rendering. It's easy.
Yeah, that's like if a lot of people could render the way that you're rendering, like, or at the beginning of your photo studies, they'd look at your first photo study and say, this is the peak that I want to achieve right here. And I couldn't imagine anything better than that.
Yeah, I was talking with Jazz yesterday. You know Jazz Mataz? He's on the server a lot.
I'm not sure.
He's over in the other chat right now. Yeah, we were talking yesterday because he's somebody who's really good at drawing, but like has always played around with the idea of getting better at rendering. Mm-hmm. And my advice to a lot of people who are in that situation is like, just don't learn how to render. Like, just focus on drawing.
Right.
And you know, he's followed me for many years, hearing me give this advice, and so he's like, I think I might just focus on drawing. And I'm like, no. Now that you agree with me, I need to disagree with myself. And like, now in an effort to remain contrarian, I think I need to encourage you to start learning how to paint. So the question is like, what skill? Like, how can I impart this stuff that I've learned decades ago to somebody who is struggling with it right now?
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you're a contrarian sage. It's like Buddha's wisdom is always, as soon as you have the answer, you don't have the answer. And
it's like also the other book that I like is the Zhuangzi, the Chinese philosopher, is part of the Taoist canon. His whole thing is like, it's like a cranky old man who's just like a contrarian about everything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I love this guy.
Oh, Pete, Microdose in chat was asking if you would be able to like adjust your screen a little bit because when you were working on the arm, that was covered by your webcam.
Oh, okay. Is that good? Yeah, I'm like kind of able to look over at chat and not, but it's just...
Yeah, I think that's good. Also, you might be able to take that screen capture and make it. Oops.
Do you think I should make
So
it
that the
smaller?
screen capture doesn't lie underneath the webcam, maybe?
What do you
Or
mean?
maybe you can make the webcam smaller.
You think I should make the
and
webcam
work
smaller?
to-
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll push it around. The thing is, my screen. I mean, well, I guess it's not gonna be so bad because I'm not. This part of the screen's not really gonna be moving.
Cool. I think that looks good.
I'm still getting. Okay, so now I'm starting to get like mushy over here again. Let me tighten down these like. This is one of those things where I wonder if it would be easier with traditional paint.
When's the last time you painted in traditional? Do you still do like work in traditional paint medium?
I kind of always aspire to, and then I never get around to it.
Right.
But I can't remember the last time I did acrylic. It's probably like before I moved to Florida. So that's like maybe 5 years ago. I did. I found on like a photo roll like a painting that I forgot that I had done. Like I made a painting and then I was like, it's good, but it's not great, and I'm not going to use it for anything. And then I just like gave it out as a free gift to a collector who's like, hey, I know you really like my stuff. You bought like a ton of shit off my store. Like you've spent a ton of money on me. Like here's a free painting.
Oh, that's nice.
Shout out to Talon Beach. But yeah, it's the efficiency thing is tough. Like, but like I don't know exactly where other people are getting stuck on it, because like to me, painting is just like, oh, you just make a bunch of marks, you mush them together, and then like you keep mushing until the thing stops looking wrong. Like it's not that from like a mindset like strategically, like the executive choices I'm making while I'm working are so limited. It's part of the reason I can do it while talking is because I don't need to think about, well, maybe I should put this here or maybe I should put it here. I just go, oh, that's in the wrong spot, and I just mush it until it's not in the wrong spot anymore, and that's the whole plan. And so I just commit to doing that for 20, 30 hours, and then it's done. And it's not a particularly efficient way of like assembling a bunch of pixels, but it's efficient enough that plenty of people tell me that I'm fast. But it's like it's not good enough. Like I see these like portrait painters who are able to do these like really simple like collection of brushstrokes in oil, and then like the likeness of the figure is like photo real, and you go, okay, what the fuck is happening there? Because like you see the people who do like portraiture or whatever, it's not that they're getting smaller or more like they're not making more granular strokes. They're not using exotic colors. They're not using fancy tools. Like there's something about like the way that they're digesting the visual information that is allowing them to create what appears to be like incredibly photorealistic looking imagery out of a very sparse number of overall brushstrokes.
Yeah.
And whatever that skill is, that's one of those skills I'd look at and go like, I don't understand it, and I should understand it.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I feel like an artist like that would look at what you're doing with your automatic resolution of your Angelarian pieces and say, what the hell did he just do? I don't understand how he did that. All I'm doing is filtering out information that I see, and this dude is pulling all this shit out his ass and making it look nice.
I do be pulling shit out of my ass.
But yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely. I feel like you're asking the right questions, and I think that's something. I think it's going to be easier for you to acquire that skill than the other way around.
I think I don't know if the other way around, but I definitely know it's going to be easier for me to figure out what the question is and what the answer is to that question than somebody who has started drawing this year. You know, like
Yeah.
20 years of art experience, it hasn't left me with the answers to these questions. But I do believe that it's going to be fairly easy for me to understand what the question is and then seek out a satisfying result.
Yep.
Which is, you know, it's that idea that is really driving me these days. This feeling that like, oh, I have all of the necessary skills to be able to ask questions that I previously didn't understand before and find the answers. That like I'm equipped to be able to take this on in like a really powerful way. Like I have all the tools and time that I need to be able to like take on these challenges that maybe some people don't even understand what the challenge is. And so like the expertise I have so far feels like this incredible like gift to be able to like tackle new problems. And so it's like, even though it's like it's not just useful in its own right, it's useful in the sense that it's like adding to my ability to like challenge myself in new ways, which I'm finding like very, very satisfying.
Yeah, well said. I think that's awesome. I think that's cool that you have this thing that you feel prepared to endeavor on, and something you have to look forward to getting better at. I think that's awesome.
All right, so I've got this kind of like more geometric looking render coming together already on the arm. I do wonder if I'm still going a little bit too high fidelity on it though. We'll see. Try some other areas. Once I have like a blocky value like study going here, I bet the color is going to be really, really easy to apply to this thing. There's some of these studies I've done the color in the last 5 minutes.
Oh wow.
Just because like once I have like the values pinned down, like oftentimes like with portraiture and stuff, there's like so few colors that actually need to get added that it's like it's really, really fast to try to put that together.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how you, because I use gradient maps quite a bit too, but I don't use them in a way that I feel like I should be.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about it now. I want to show you, like, because I was talking about this yesterday, and I feel like for my application, I've like started to solidify my feelings about how to use gradient maps on a photo study.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck was I drawing up here? Finding these bits that I'm like, why is that here? Am I looking at the wrong part of the painting, or did I make a mistake earlier? What's going on? I'm wanting to be precise, so I'm zooming in. But I'm losing my sense of position on the study a little bit too. So one of the things I'm going to do here is I want to juice the values. Like I really like some of my favorite things that I've done is like having there be like a really different treatment of like color and value from the reference. So
Oh, that's nice.
situations like these, I've really liked like the way the pink pops and the blue pops on this here.
Yeah, that looks really nice. I've definitely noticed that's the first thing that jumps out to me when I look at your studies, is that you really play with the color in a fun way.
I've been looking at everyone. I feel like is looking at Yuming Lee right now. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope. Is that an artist?
And I don't know them, but their work. I followed them on social media for a little bit, and then I just see
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
everybody's referencing this person's work, and they do really cool stuff with like highlights being these really bold, saturated colors, and this like sort of very what do you call it? Impressionistic use of color. And then these kind of like soft faded out facial features also kind of a thing, like reducing the contrast on like the skin tone to leave the contrast for like other parts. I always love that look.
Yeah, these are incredible.
And that faded out face look, especially like if it's like in shadow and it's like losing contrast because it's like in shadow, but also their shadows are, in some cases, being sort of filled in by this ethereal light. I love that look. So I really want to do that on this piece. So I want to do like the kind of faded out values on the skin tone for the face. I might end up doing like some washes over the arms too to get that. That way, like I can do something interesting with the color on the blouse, and then do like a solid black or like a really stark, fully black and white skirt, and then tie it all together with like an interesting color field in the background. That's sort of the plan for the future on this. So I'm probably going to be doing I'm going to have like the high contrast rendering on the skirt and then on the blouse with some like tight details for like the necklace bit, and then seeing if I can, and then on the hair too. High contrast on the hair, because you can see this really dark high contrast on the hair, really helps balance out the image overall. But then like kind of obliterating the contrast up on the front of the face. Instead, maybe using these like intense highlights, maybe doing them in the same color as like on the blouse, or like the color field from the background. I'm just calling it now. I mean, I'm looking. This is what I'm thinking about as I'm sort of planning it out.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your thought process and how you want to, because you did say you wanted to be more. It sounds like intentional with how you build the image.
Yeah, because like when I'm working on Angelarium paintings, like a lot of it's improvisational.
Yeah.
Shatter Mitsumuri. First time chatter. Thanks for stopping by. I'm seeing a lot of first time chatters. Sleepy Rays too. Dang. Like plenty of people popping in here. This is cool. Thanks you guys for showing up. I'll forget to hit the follow button so you can see when I'm going live next. Doing this just about every work day. So 5 days a week is the plan for Twitch. 1 to 2 hours a day. I went for 4 hours yesterday though. It's just like not wanting to get to all the other stuff I really needed to do. And so it was like, I am going to procrastinate by being live on Twitch and just like going through my favorite rants, talking about art for like 4 hours.
That's the good life, man. You're working.
Oh, I'm working. Yeah. So like, that's the thing is like, I was struggling to do Twitch before because I was trying to do like work on my mainline paintings, and I was also trying to read every chat message, and like I was trying to just be me talking to text chat, and it was fucking impossible. Like my attention was being split. I was feeling like I was being watched, and I just sucked at painting live on Twitch. But like having voice chat and working on studies is like a totally different experience.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Because you've been doing some Twitch streaming. Like, how do you feel like? Do you feel like the work that you're doing while you're Twitch streaming is productive?
Not really. It can be, like when I'm working on the right thing and I've gotten to the zone, and I'm like, because I think I kind of work like you in the sense that at a certain point I'm just sort of noodling and hoping things get better. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they get worse. I've been streaming like once a week for the past like year, just because I feel obligated to do it, but I'm also like not happy enough with how it's working that I want to do it every day. So I don't know. It's yeah, it is hard, like you said, when you have chat and when you're trying to work on a mainline piece and you're thinking about, this is like I'm supposed to be performing well in this thing, and it's.
What are your aspirations for Twitch? What do you want to get out of it?
I don't know, man. I've been thinking about that. I'm not sure.
It's not that scary of a question. It's not like, what do you want out of life? What do you want out of your marriage? Like,
well, I know. Like the idea was that like it would be a sort of the thing I like about Twitch and streaming services is it's a way to interface with people in a way that traditional social media doesn't. So like you're able to talk with people one on one, and you're able to develop rapport and a level of interest that you just can't get through responding to Instagram comments.
Right.
And so when I first started, it was actually working quite well, and I was seeing a bit of growth. But lately, it's been quite stagnant. And so if like it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, I'm sort of not really committed to the idea of doing this as a serious venture, but I'm kind of keeping it on life support for reasons that maybe I don't really. Yeah. So I think either I need to. What is the phrase? Shit or get off the toilet kind of thing.
Nut up or shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you either like take the thing that you've been getting out of Twitch and bring it to another platform. Try to see if you can get what the desired results out of a different format. Or you shift what the goals are. Maybe.
Yeah. Piss or get off the pot. There we go. Yeah.
Any other? What are some other possibilities you could? I'm trying to think of rhyming.
Oh, what other metaphors?
Yeah. Do you think while we're on this topic, we can come up with a rhyming version of this metaphor?
I think so. I bet ChatGPT could.
Oh, you think so?
I think. Well, I don't know.
You want to see what ChatGPT's got on this?
Yeah, because it's like it's smart, but it's not.
It feels like it's getting dumber.
Yeah.
Like,
does it? Have you noticed that?
One of the OpenAI guys was like, it's not getting dumber. You guys are just getting more sensitive to the ways in which it's always been dumb.
Oh, I see.
And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if that's true. I wonder if I think it might be getting dumber. It's been talking a lot to people on the internet, which I think makes everybody dumber.
Yeah. Yeah, because before they were feeding it information on like books and
Yeah, and they're like, well, we ran out of the entire Library of Congress and like every TED Talk and every smart thing anyone's ever said. So now we're feeding it Twitter. It's getting way worse at math.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, like, I mean, how do you feel about like the image AI models, like Midjourney, where it feels like there was at least in my experience, there's a period of time when these tech were first coming out where I was just mind blown in a way that like it seemed like the possibilities were infinite, but as sort of the models matured and as I guess I've seen more and more AI art, I'm able to pick out the patterns quicker.
Yeah, you see
really
a piece of AI art and you're just like, oh, that's just AI art. It looks like AI, like nothing to see here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it's still like abstractly beautiful, but those are kind of like it's just kind of boring too in a way.
Yeah, no, it's the struggle because I mean I think it's verifiably been getting better. It's been getting stronger over time, but also. Yeah. Like the novelty of it is wearing off, and with the novelty gone, there's not something behind the novelty that's like drawing more interest.
Right.
And it's left feeling a little hollow. I mean, like for a while, people were like, "Oh, it's so soulless." I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think there's specific ways in which it's weak that we have a hard time putting into words.
Yeah, I agree with it. It is tough to put into words. It's like it's because it's so good at doing certain things really, really well.
But describing the things that it's good at versus bad at require almost a different set of artistic language from like what we use to describe what different artists are good and bad at.
Yes, I
It's
think so.
got a fundamentally different set of like strengths and weaknesses from a human artist.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because it is very good at like the thing that a certain artist might be good at, the AI can be good at that too in a certain way. But it feels like, I mean, I guess this probably matters more like depending on this the specific model you're talking about. But it feels like no matter what style the model adopts, it feels like it's made by the same thing. In that there's something that feels just the same about it all, the decisions it makes.
Yeah, which is weird because it's like it can do anything, right? Like, why would it feel all samey when it's like doing all kinds of, it can do every art style and every subject matter. You know, why would it feel like it's all kind of the same piece? Like,
Yeah.
but like everyone you talk to kind of says that. So what about it is giving us all that impression when it, you know, our naive understanding would be that it should be like difficult to group together because it, you know, it's, people are always asking like, well, how do I differentiate my style when I have so many different interests, right? Like this, how many times in art discussion has someone said that, like, oh, I don't know what to do. There's so many things that I like. That whenever I'm talking to somebody about, you know, establishing a style or a brand, that they always do some version of that quote. And I'm like, it's more complicated than that. You know, like people, like everybody likes a lot of different things. But then when you look at AI art, like it can do everything, and yet it does seem to have a particular voice to it. That is like we can pick out beyond, like behind the styles at times, and it's you know, so it asks the question, you know, like, okay, if this like machine artist can do every single style and every single subject matter, how come we can still define it in a way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like it's like, because you have to train them, like, for something to look good, it has to be trained on some library of things that the people who built the model think look good. Like a model that can do everything is a literally everything is a model that will create just noise because everything is unlimited. And
Right.
so they have to contain the model's sort of fundamental habits based off of a body of work that they feel like is quote unquote aesthetic. And I think AI models are more bound by that than human artists in a way.
How far off am I on the? A lot. Yeah. I don't know. It's again. It's like as soon as I start thinking about it, the thing I run into is like a lack of vocabulary. I could be like, yeah man, totally. It's like, all right, not that insightful of an input. Yeah. It's like, were you there during the Clubhouse moment? Do you remember Clubhouse?
Like I stepped my toe into it and I didn't really understand what was happening, so
yeah, I just remember like there was like a minute where Clubhouse was like the biggest fucking thing in the internet, right? Like,
yeah.
And everyone, and so I was like on Clubhouse all day, every day. And I was like, you know, there was all these people who were like, oh my God, there's all these subject matter experts and they're running all these talks. It's like an infinite convention full of infinite like convention panels that are happening all the time. And then there was a point where I was like, I was in the warehouse. I was like fulfilling orders or whatever, right? I have my headphones on and I'm like, instead of a podcast, I'm going to see what's going on in Clubhouse. And so I tried to find like an art discussion and it was just like a room full of people that were all super high, like complaining about like friend circle drama. And I was just like, and it was just like, wow, this is the worst discussion I've ever heard in my whole life. It's the lamest thing I could have ever tuned into in my whole life.
Wow.
That's like what a lot of AI talk sounds like, in part because there's a lot of people just going like, yeah, man, like, what the fuck? Like, I find myself just drifting into that because I'm like, I have all these feelings about stuff, but I don't have like a good way of verbalizing it. So it's just like, it descends into me like, yeah, fucking right, dude. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's all you need.
Sometimes it do be like that.
Would you say that was that like emblematic of like when you got into that Clubhouse space? Is this like the decline of Clubhouse where things started out?
Yeah, that
really,
was the point where I was like, wait, Clubhouse sucks. Never mind.
yeah.
Because I'm like, it's not a subject matter expert who's like talking about something really interesting related to art. It's not like, like a convention panel. It's just I've just poked my head down an alleyway next to a bar.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that was what I was experiencing was like, hey, you ever wanted an app that's like when you turn it on, it's kind of like what you see when you like look down the alley next to a bar at like 12:30?
Right.
And I'm like, no, not really. Thanks though. And then we got Twitter Spaces, and I was like, damn, this could be it. This could be the promise of Clubhouse, but now it has like an actual user base. Like this could be huge. And then all Twitter Spaces I've ever seen have been crypto related. And I'm like, never mind. Like, have you ever been to a non-crypto related Twitter space?
I like, yeah, and it wasn't great. Well, I mean, even the crypto ones I've been to, it's just like you said, it had that feeling of it's just a bunch of people talking shit about like whatever tangentially they pitch the talk to be about.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are just people like just super blasted out of their minds high.
Yeah.
Sitting in a room, just like it's either crypto or it's just people ripped out of their fucking minds.
It really makes you think like how much of all of the online interactions you've ever had on in a comment section is just somebody who's ripped out of their gourd hanging out bored on social media. And that's the reason like if you were, now that you can actually hear what they sound like, that like gives a full explanation as to like what the experience has been up to that point.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was something I think about a lot because it's like when I read, people's tweets, anonymous tweets, they all have this voice of unwarranted authority in my mind because they could be anybody.
Uh-huh.
But it's like when you match the voice to the name, it's like, holy shit, like how much of my brain is getting cluttered by people who are just
how much am I getting fired up over the opinion of somebody who is wandering around in their underpants wasted in the middle of the afternoon?
Yep. Yeah, it makes you think.
Really makes you think. Like I was like, oh wow, this is going to be crazy. Actually, I think the experience I ultimately wanted was just Discord. I actually really like Discord a lot because people, for some reason, like people pop into Discord voice chats like more often when they actually want to like speak to people and actually want like a guided subject matter of some sort. They want the room to have a topic. They want like a certain group of self-selected people to like be involved. And that can be really great. Like you just like meet people who are really excited about art on art servers. Go figure. And then you talk to them about art, and like everyone walks away like kind of charged up. Like, and it's a good experience.
Yeah, that's been my experience with Discord too. It's definitely like, I mean, one of the things I wanted to with Twitch was to funnel people into Discord because Discord is where I've had all of the the best interactions, and I think it's like because the Discord server itself.
You just reminded me. I'm gonna hit the button. Here's the link to
There you
Discord,
go.
everybody. Donald Trump versus Joe Biden AI here on Twitch is funny AF. Let's see. Message reason swearing automod allow. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. They're asking who's the co-host. You want to introduce yourself?
My name's Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, Obsidian Grove on everywhere.
Yeah.
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 Artist of note. I don't know. What are you known for?
Being really slow at painting.
What? All right. Slow painter
Extraordinaire.
extraordinaire. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I totally agree with you. It feels like Discord is because like Twitter is just like going on the street and talking with anybody and everybody. And a lot of the time, the people who are wandering the street are not the kind of people you want to be having conversations with. Whereas Discord feels like it's you have to. I'm sure there are Discord servers that are complete and utter cesspools.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For sure there is. I've seen it.
But yeah, with Discord at least you get that you get to filter out, you know. It's kind of like with like on YouTube, you'll get, you know, if you look at the comment sections, depending on the channel you go to, it's a completely different sample of people.
Yeah.
It feels more like that, which I like.
All right. So I'm trying out some of this sort of like simplified shading on the face. Like this is a really good sample to do it on. So instead of like, basically I'm just ignoring all the fill light and just trying to like get like the really deep shadows and these like highlights and see if I can get some of it defined with that. And immediately I'm kind of pretty happy with it. One of the things I'm putting off is like I usually do, let's see, what should we do for a background color on Kate here? I might go with a deep red.
Whoa.
Go with the McDonald because I'm gonna go bright yellow on the blouse, or should
McDonald's color.
so just yeah I was thinking like should we go McDonald's colors on here?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
The other option is like I mean she's already on like a sort of pale blue, like that with the yellow is always a really strong look. Teal and yellow.
Yeah, like the warm and the cool.
Yeah. Am I at a new layer? Yeah. Yeah, Twitch funneling people in Discord like 100%. Like that's a big thing because like you know we've got this cool Discord. I've been really happy with how the Discord's come together, but there needs to be ways for people to discover that Discord exists so they can come and like hang out and do their own studies and join in voice chat and like you know I've met a ton of cool people through Discord and I want to keep meeting more and I want them to be meeting and hanging out with each other, which we have going right now. Like there's always voice chats going in here and they're not just showing up for me, they're showing up for each other, which is such a relief. I feel like that's like a huge success for this project is that like people want to talk to each other and not just like hang out and like hang on me.
Yeah, wait for the
yeah because like I like meeting new people and I like that people are fans of me and stuff, but I don't want to just have a fan club Discord. I want to have a space that is like up to something and having an interesting time.
I mean that's what the Angelarium Discord's for.
Oh, just be a fan club? Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Huckleberry I wanted it to be a self-sustaining kind of like not fan community, art community.
Yeah. Have you thought about like your long-term vision for what you want Huckleberry to become? Is it still?
Totally. I think about it all the time. The problem is like I am splitting my time a lot, and I keep running out of time to like do all the things that I'm fully obligated to do, and then like this stuff that's for the time that's supposed to be for building for the future always keeps getting pushed back by like 1 week or 2 at a time. So I was hoping to have like a whole educational offering, like a minimum viable product version of it done by now. But it's like barely been started. So I am trying to figure out how to like what it takes to like develop the process. Like I need to I don't just need to like write a bunch of tutorials. I need to figure out how to write tutorials.
Right. Interesting. And so like the types of tutorials that you'd want to write, like what's the kind of scope and the focus?
The main thing that I want to do super right is I want to have a really good beginner's course.
Right.
Because the majority of people don't know art that good. They're not good. They're not good at art because they haven't spent much time with it. And I want to invite them in. They're like the primary kind of person that I'm interested in inviting in to give a shot at this stuff because I think art's really cool. I think it's really fun. And there's like a lot of people who follow me online. And there's like way too many people following me online for them all to be artists. And so like, you know, the whole thing of like talking to people about the business of art is like such a tiny subset of a subset. I really just want to like widen that open a lot. Okay. So with the silhouette kind of knocked down and being like separate, like I was running into this thing where I was like, I don't want to keep bringing these highlights up further and further. I want to keep them kind of in the middle, but I don't want them blending into the background. I feel like I'm making slower progress on this than my previous attempts, but I'm also being much, much more meticulous about these like earlier steps with the hope that like I'm going to be developing a better process for future pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that makes sense. That you're, if it's just automatic and you're not thinking about it, you can probably blast through it. But if you're
but like,
I mean, one of the downsides of
who cares if I
having,
finish a study? I should be learning from the study.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have a lot of habits that you've developed that have helped you very well in your career that I feel like take more conscious effort to pause on than learning something new. But I guess learning something new takes a lot of effort.
Oh yeah, I mean, learning requires discomfort.
Yeah.
There's no learning without some amount of discomfort. So it's like, I'm not somebody who really enjoys discomfort. I think I'm a little bit of a pansy. Like I just like, it takes me like an hour to like ease into the pool when it's like still like 80 degrees. I just am so bad with like dealing with even the slightest discomforts. But when it comes to like the kind of mental discomfort of like playing hard games or learning new skills, like I get way into it. Like I like the idea. I like the feeling of overcoming difficult challenges. So it's like physical discomfort, bad, mental discomfort. I'm like, I feel like I'm rushing towards it.
Mm-hmm. So no Wim Hof ice baths for you?
Oh, God, no. Fuck. Oh my God. I think there was a couple of times where I turned the shower on cold, thinking like, hey, you know what? Maybe if I like give it a real run, I'll get that kind of satisfying rush that I got out of like the kind of difficult mental challenges that I have. And then I'm in there for like a few seconds and I'm like, nope, I don't want it. Don't care. Not interested.
You got out too early, man. You gotta the golden goodies on the other end. You just gotta stick it out for long enough.
Yeah, I figured that's what anybody would say about it, and I'm gonna say, nope, I'm not gonna do it.
Not for me.
Not gonna happen. So I've got all these like construction lines that I'm normally like blending into stuff later. That now I'm finding them in the way as I'm trying to like see my way through these planes. I'm wondering if I should bring the construction lines down explicitly. Like just, I have them on a separate layer. I wonder if it'd be better off just like fading them down a little bit so I don't end up having to scrub so much just to like manually blow them out.
Microdose says that's like running for 30 seconds and saying that's not for you.
I mean, that's the thing is it's like when it comes to physical exertion, Like I do get a feeling of like if I'm pedaling my bike really hard and I can just feel like my battery wearing down and like my stamina wearing down and like seeing how far I can push myself into exhaustion, like that to me feels satisfying also. But just straight discomfort for the sake of it to me feels awful. Like cold water is like on top of the list. Cold water or like I don't know, like anything where I'm pushing the physical limits of my body is like fine. Even like breath holding I could probably deal with. It's just there's something about just resigning yourself to like physical discomforts that have nothing to do with exertion or like activity. Just I can't deal with it. Don't want it. And then I found also that I got way more productive at working at my desk when I got like a really comfy chair. When I went from a total shit chair to like a really comfortable one, instead of me being like, well, I'm so tough at like, I'm very strong for having such a uncomfortable chair. Like I'm fucking Liver King sleeping on a mattress made of wooden planks. You know, just going in a totally opposite direction and being like, no, I've got the expensive like Aeron chair.
Ooh.
And like moving to that, I was just like, oh, so all of a sudden it's way easier to get my work done. Like there was like nothing bad about it. It was all good. Just like, I was like, I wonder if some people who have a hard time like sitting still and working, they just like something uncomfortable in their work environment that's not boiling up to the surface quite high enough for them to realize that it's like weighing on them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder like how much people who are struggling with like time management and productivity are actually just like have a shitty space and like could benefit from like seeing the ways in which they can modify their space to be a little bit more accommodating. And that
I think
it's not an option for everyone, but like
well, it's like it's where why wouldn't you design the place that you need to be at to be a place that you want to be at?
yeah. And I'm not speaking from an office that's like a cushy, nice, creative space. I'm in a fallout shelter right now. It's that's the size of like the bunker is about the size of like a solitary confinement cell.
Oh, nice. Cozy.
Yeah. No, there's something about it that's a little bit like the physical embodiment of a weighted blanket.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I used to have like a really open space. Like in my old house, there was a basement. I had the whole basement, and the guy, it was a rental. And the guy who owned it had like built out this whole huge space to be like a suite, a downstairs suite, like a second house with a kitchen and a living room and like everything except for it was like, and it had a separate entrance in the back. And so I had the whole space to myself. It was like basically an entire apartment just for me to go work in. And so half of it was full of like inventory because I was shipping orders out of there. And then like the whole living room was just like there for like, I had, I was able to set up multiple desks and I had a big closet and I had all this stuff. But I would dream while I was in there of like having like a little tiny closet that I could just go in with like a little with like a patterned rug on the ground and like a record player and just like a bunch of blankets and just hang out in a tiny little room that was super claustrophobic.
Interesting.
Yeah. So and so I would like dream about that. I don't know why I would. Like it's not like I'd ever had that before. But now I work inside of a room that is like not far off from that.
Right.
Minus the blankets.
Is it just in your basement?
I don't have a basement. The basement's in Florida.
Oh.
It's like my house was built in the 1950s. So they built a fallout shelter behind the
it
master.
literally is a fallout shelter.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they built a fallout shelter behind the master bedroom.
Okay.
And so there's like a little barn door that pulls aside behind, like next to my bed, that goes down a concrete hallway and into kind of like you ever see the movie Barbarian?
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like a barbarian tunnel that like leads down
Dude.
into it, like goes down like a slight grade, and then it goes down into this like fallout shelter that's about 6 feet by 10 feet.
Okay, yeah, that's not big at all.
It's not big, and
That's,
the hallway is really funny because it's like it's not built to like hallway size. It's like I don't know what kind of building codes this would be for. It's about 2 feet wide, so like it's too narrow to fit any furniture through it. Like even just the wheelbase on my wheelie chair was too narrow to be able to fit through it. So I had to disassemble it down, like every single piece of it, to be able to break it apart and carry it and then reassemble it inside the room on the other end. Same with my desk. Like I had to take it down like completely apart, and each component needed to fit through the hallway in order to get down there.
God.
There are some built-in shelves here, like wooden built-in shelves that I'm presuming are for like canned food
Yeah.
and probably jarred urine.
Right.
But I have like little trophies and stuff on there.
No jarred urine for you.
Yeah, I've never, I can honestly say, and I want everyone to believe me when I say this, I've never peed in this office.
No, but you didn't say you've never peed in a jar.
I don't know if I have peed in a jar. I don't think so. But
Desperate music
I've
for
never
people.
peed in this office. I am not the quartering.
Okay. Wait, has he peed in his office?
He has a famous thing where he talks about he peed in his basement, just like on the floor, like on the floor drain. It's like,
Wait, what?
yeah, what a horrible, horrible life.
What? Like, just couldn't make it?
No, I think it was just a sort of like,
He liked to do
I
it?
think it was just like, yeah, maybe just like exerting his gremlin behavior.
Oh, well, like we all have an inner gremlin somewhere.
Yeah, there is a certain amount of like active gremlininess that I find kind of fun and like charming in other people, but yeah, I'm gonna suck air through my teeth at that one.
That's not.
Not okay. Yeah.
That's pretty gremlin with a capital G. That's
yeah.
quite-
I've never. I'm saying that, like, I've never peed in the office because I've never, as gremlin-y as I love to be sometimes, I've never descended down into those depths.
How deep have you gotten? Down
I don't know.
gremlin?
Oh, I don't know if I should be admitting that on here. No, I am not. As memories are bubbling to the surface, I'm just immediately editing them all out. Huh. No, you guys don't get that much of me.
That's the. Not yet. We'll get
Not
there.
yet. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, maybe someday.
It'll be like a sub milestone.
oh,
you
where
get-
I talk about my most gremlin-y behavior ever.
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what is like pure gremlin and what is just like autistic behavior. Like, I was thinking about this one time when I was working at CCP, like there was some office party or whatever where everyone was like wasted and the management was like, we're all going to a strip club. And I had just tucked into, like, StarCraft 2 was fairly new at this time. And I had just tucked into some StarCraft multiplayer with some coworkers in the office. And Anya was like, oh, I've never been to a strip club. I kind of want to go and see it. I was like, yeah, go ahead. I'm going to stay here and play StarCraft. I'm like, listen, yeah, sure. Sounds interesting. Whatever. Beautiful naked people. Uh-huh. I'm really stoked for getting a chance to play some of this like StarCraft multiplayer, and I don't know how many shots I've got at this. So you have fun. I'm gonna stay here and build more pylons.
Must construct additional pylon.
Yeah, I'm like, I got some additional pylons queued up, so I'm gonna like work on those.
I don't know, man. I think that's strip clubs are kind of sad. I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, no, that's an opinion I've held for a long time. Never been like, oh my god, I'm so glad I came here and I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with your significant other or whatever, and you're having at a party and you're with a bunch of other people, and maybe, and then it's just be like, no.
Yeah.
I'm here for the StarCraft.
That's definitely. I feel like that's definitely. If there's a switch between gremlin and autistic, I think that's on the A side. Just leave me alone.
Like I have what do they call it? Areas of high interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got areas of high interest in this pylon building.
Yeah, and unbreakable by social pressure.
Yeah. Regardless of like what other people in the room are interested in, or like where the general flow of like, other people's like, interests, or, but I mean, there was other coworkers of mine who were making the same choice as me. So, but we were all pretty spectrumy. I mean, it's not a game developer. It happens.
Yep, that's a safe bet.
Yeah, I'm being way pickier about these values. I typically keep the values like really, really loose, and then I go and tighten it all down after I've put it in a color. But the plan here is to still retain some lack of specificity throughout some areas of the painting. But because I know I'm going to keep this area black and white or like fully monochrome, I feel totally comfortable going like into really like tight detail like right off the bat. And then there's some subtlety in the darks that I could pull out, but I think I'm just gonna fully flatten it. Trying to pick areas of rest that have like that are fully flat or just textured, rather than like going in and trying to make a bunch of subtle rendering, is something that I've been aspiring to do more as well. So I'm gonna make sure that happens.
Yeah, I think that looks nice. Who's it? I think it's Sargent that's really good at that. He does like just ballsy whole entire like continents of the painting are just completely.
Yeah, no, it always looks so good. And so my plan here is to try to keep things a little bit simple and geometric while I'm retaining this black and white. And then I'm curious about what that does, bringing it into color using the gradient maps and stuff. But I have a feeling that like rather than rushing towards like a rough black and white and then using my color tools and then spending a bunch of time on the back end doing like color rendering, I'm trying to spend the same amount of time but move the blocks around, move the sort of time blocks, the investments around.
That makes sense. Yeah, with gradient maps, do you find that?
Hello, Ian is asking, have you never peed in a bottle? I'm gonna toss this one back to you. Have you ever peed in a bottle? At a concert or something? Festival?
No, but I've had buddies pee in bottles in the same car that I'm in. back when I used to play in a band, we were doing some like weekend warrior tours, and it was the kind of thing where it was like it was definitely like not enough room, and not enough. I think we were driving too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not a. There's definitely ways. There's good and bad ways to pee in a bottle.
I'm not gonna get. We're not gonna get that specific on it. Art of Renee is asking like if I'm still working on Tarot deck. The answer is yeah. You want to see? I need to post updates to my Patreon because I'm behind. This is the Temperance card. I'm like really far along with it. I wanted to finish it by the 1st, so I'm already 2 days late. But I think I've got less than a day's worth of work on it. The plan was to do the study today, go offline, and maybe finish this tonight. the family is out of the house. They went off to Busch Gardens, and I'm at home, like streaming, hanging out by myself. And so I might go see if my buddy's up for the bar later tonight. But I might. Last night I was like working on this till late, and I might do that again. And I think I can. I have one strong work session, and I think I'm all done with Temperance. And then I've got like 3 or 4 more to finish the Major Arcana, which I'm pretty stoked to be done with that step.
Oh, that's awesome. That looks great.
I keep like narrowing what like my focus is for the tarot deck. The more I get through it, the clearer a vision I have for it. And that's the one big drawback of that is that I'm beginning to question some of my earlier choices. So I'm trying to figure out how much I'm going to be making some last minute corrections. Like how many corrections, once I get through all of them once, how much am I going to give myself permission to go through some of them a second time?
Oh, I see.
Because there's one of them that I already have pretty much settled on redoing. I'd already redone one of them once early on, and then unredid it. I ended up using the older one anyway. And then there's like corrections on specific cards that I know I want to make. So yeah, it's like there's like kind of a dangling question I have of like how much time is there going to be after I'm done with the last card before I'm calling the Major Arcana finished. And I'm hoping to like maybe spend a week or 2 messing with like individual edits, but like I need to like set a limit for myself. Otherwise, I could potentially going around in circles and doing multiple revisions across like the whole deck, and I can't let that happen.
Right.
I need to get it done.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be huge, man. That's.
Well, then I
badass.
only have what like 54 cards left to go, 56 cards left to go.
Oh. Well, forgot about that part.
Yeah. Yeah, the minor, people keep asking me what my plan is for the Minor Arcana, and I have like kind of plans, but I haven't done any tests. I haven't tried any of the solutions that I've thought about. So I got to do that. I got to like try out some ideas before I like start doing a bunch of cards and then change my mind 20 cards in and redo it. Have you thought about doing a deck, Oracle, Tarot? Did you do an Oracle?
Yeah, we thought about doing. I think like turning paintings I've done into an Oracle deck is something that we'd want to do.
Yeah.
Doing like a specific like tarot deck with like the specific arcana, I'd say I'm less interested in right now, just because I feel like I have a lot of other work to do. But doing an Oracle deck for sure is something that both Diane and I have an interest in, because she genuinely likes, like she loves the Brian Froud deck. We have your deck. It's something that we just like as a product, so it's something that we'd be and like Diane's really into like she'd be the one writing it, and I wouldn't have to worry about that, which would be nice.
Ooh, that sounds nice. Yeah, I don't know anything about the writing of it, and like I got a deal for my my new Oracle deck is being done through a publisher, which is kind of new for me. And they're like I ended up writing it, and now they've got these questions. So like, oh, coming back with questions. When you're reading it like this, what do you do in this situation? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I've never, like, I don't know that much about divination. And then I'm being asked to write this thing, and I'm like, I think I did a good job. But now people are like asking, or like I get DMs sometimes for people who have the old deck, and they're like, what do you do? Like, what do you think about this? What do you do about this? And I'm just like, I just delete the DMs. I'm like, I don't want to like tell them I don't know how divination works, and I don't know what you should be doing, and I don't remember what I wrote. So I just delete the DM. That's it.
That's not the guidance they're seeking.
No. That's like, I've been getting an uptick in people who are like contacting me because they want insight into the actual angels that they're observing, and they want my expert input.
Like, what do you mean they're observing?
They're like, oh, the angels that are coming to me are like this. What do you think about that?
Oh, like
And they're
they're
like-
looking at your catalog and they're saying the angel, like Azrael, is like popping out at me.
Or they're like, oh, a bunch of cherubs help me solve a crime,
Okay.
you know, and they're like, so what about me solving this crime with the help of these angels that are coming in from another dimension? And I'm just like, I am not going to reply to that email.
That's okay. Oh, I see. So yeah, okay.
I screenshot. What I do is I screenshot the DMs so that like if it ever comes up in conversation, I can like show people what I'm talking about, and then I delete it.
Okay, is crime fighting cherubs? Is this something? Is this a specific example, or is this something off the dome?
Oh, that's a specific example.
Oh my god, dude.
I shared one. With a friend yesterday. Let me see if I can read it. I got a DM yesterday. Let's see. Dude, congratulations, says guy in my DMs. I study angelology by myself and acknowledging, and then in capitals, them as shapeshifters. And then in parentheses, according to the Creator's orders. Creator's orders is also in capitals. While seeing these innovative views of yours. Awesome. Better than just babies with wings, right? Thank you, and thank you for your job. I'm like, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah, the Creator's orders. Great. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. We're both on the same page.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of people look at your work and like assume like a kind of divine inspiration, and that you're really in the know
Maybe.
about a lot of things that are.
Well, like I had a meth head come up to me at Dragon Con one year, and he just like raised an eyebrow really high, and he was like, "Do you see them too?"
Oh, yo.
And I was just like frozen in place. I bet my eyebrows shot straight up when he did that. And so I was like, I sure hope that he is too high right now to notice what my face is doing. And then he disappeared, and you know, I don't remember what I said, but he disappeared right after that. And then I turn around to my assistant, and I was like, dude, did you just see that? That was so fucking scary. And she's just standing there wide-eyed, not saying anything. And I'm like, oh no. And I turn around, and he's back with his girlfriend. And he's like, babe, check this out. This guy, he's got the real angels, like the ones that I see.
He's got the sight.
And I'm just like, oh fuck. It's just like he's not in my DMs. He's he's across the
He's
folding
in
table
your
from me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just like, oh my god, I sure hope that this like meth head with like, you know, shaved dome didn't overhear me or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah, for
I
anybody
guess
watching who's feeling disappointed, I'm sorry. I don't actually see angels.
yeah,
I don't have magical powers. I don't have divine visions. I just like anime. just
like
that's where they're all coming from. Is I just like anime.
Evangelion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting.
It's cool to like anime. I agree. It is cool to like anime. It's one of the most attractive things.
Anime is
you can
pretty
do.
good, man.
Yeah. I got that. I don't know if you've seen the advertisements around. I kept seeing these advertisements around for a hat that just said Neon Genesis Evangelion, but it was the logo of the Bass Pro Shop. So I bought it. So that's my new hat. You know, it's like
You bought it?
incognito Florida man hat. Yeah.
Right on. The blend in.
Yeah.
They're
So I
gonna
can
think
have
that
like
neon Neon Genesis is like a type of bait.
Yeah, well, I want people to think that I am a standard Florida person, right? You know,
Yes.
I fit in down here. But then I want those in the know to know that I'm nodding and winking at them.
Right. So sneaky.
Plus, I thought it was a really funny hat, and I was like, oh, I don't usually like a lot of comedy clothes, but I think I was like waiting for the right comedy hat.
Well, I feel like that was in
was-
some sense made for you. I
yeah,
feel
it
like there's
spoke-
not a lot of like
Spoke to
you
me
know,
rather specifically. I felt like.
it's so specific that it's not gonna be good for almost anybody but you.
No, but it seemed like they were selling a lot of them. I was like, that's a weird niche joke, but yeah, people seem to like it. So good for you know what? Every once in a while, the world surprises me. It makes me feel like the world is full of smart, interesting people that I share something with. That's always a good
Yeah.
feeling. And that's what I felt looking at this gosh darn hat.
It's a shame you felt more connection with the people who made the hat than the guy who literally sees your angels.
Yeah, isn't it?
That could have been a real connection right there.
You think he and I had something in common?
Yeah, I think he probably could have helped you make more angels. I think you missed an opportunity to bring in a consult.
Yeah. I mean, he sees him for real, so I could ask him questions like,
Yeah.
"What's this guy supposed to look like?" You know,
Is this right? Can
yeah,
you?
is this guy? Yeah. No, I've met some people who you know, believe they see angels. That I thought it was pretty fun meeting them, and they seemed cool, and I liked them. And then, but when it's like it's a scary meth head,
Yes.
a lot less so.
Yeah. Yeah. What have you? What other experiences have you had with people like looking at your work and then kind of projecting their own experience onto it and like what? Because I imagine that happens a lot.
Well,
where
sometimes
they-
it's really wonderful. Like I've had some really great interactions with people at cons where they like, you know, my work means something to them, and and it's not something I necessarily intended, or like, you know, somebody told me that like, you know, a piece of mine spoke to them and helped them through cope with like the death of their child, and I was like, oh my god, like we're in an anime con right now. This is like not the kind of deeply emotional experience thought I was signing up for, but you know, it's incredible that, you know, that's they have this incredibly powerful connection for this like huge event in their life that is tied back to my work, and like I feel honored to be a part of their story, and that like thankful that like my work was doing good in the world and stuff like that. So sometimes it's a really incredible experience. Like one of the funniest interactions I ever had at a con that sticks with me is a guy was at New York Comic Con. Some middle-aged Indian dude in a Batman costume, like what looked like he had gotten like a Batman costume from like a Spirit Halloween store.
Yeah.
It wasn't like cosplay. It was like a Halloween costume, right? Off the rack. And he came up to me and he's looking all confused. And he's like, so do you just like make up whatever and then put your name on it? And I was like, what? Like, you realize Batman's not a documentary, right?
That's fun.
But yeah, it was like the first time he ever thought like maybe there's a human being behind this stuff. Like maybe it just never occurred to him before that like all media is just like made up by some dumb asshole out there that like, and that anyone's allowed to do it. And it just like, it always seemed like it was just a matter of nature that like Batman came into the world, or like things were on television, or comic books existed, or whatever, right? But
Right.
like,
Yeah.
But then here I was standing next to something that was not from a TV show or a comic book. It was just something that I made up and put my name on it. And he was like perplexed. It was like
Yeah,
really
you're
vexing him. Because, I mean, he was
you're
surrounded
outside
by
of
all
the,
these comics and DVDs and like anime and superheroes. And like, here was this guy who was just trying to sell something that wasn't from a show.
hmm you're not part of the Western canon. You're not part of the Western mythology.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was like pretending
Yeah.
like my thing was real.
Yeah, yeah. Snake oil salesman.
And so I'm not sure if he was trying to be insulting. Like, I got the sense he was a little bit bashful about the question. Maybe didn't realize how it was coming across. But it was definitely tipping his hand as to like how he saw, sort of a larger worldview. And I just thought it was funny because I'm like, how many people have had that thought and just never been dumb enough to say it out loud to someone's face?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it does have like the
'Cause
innocence
he's
of a
not just
child asking
yeah
a
he's not
question.
just thinking it, he's like saying
Yeah.
it to me, and then I was like, excuse me. So I didn't think I heard him, or maybe I gave him a second to like reconsider what he was saying, and he just like repeated it. I'm like, okay, man. I was like, why don't you keep walking?
Yeah. Yeah, everything was thought up by somebody.
Yeah, everything's just some dumb bullshit that some guy made up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do like the fact that he was wearing a Batman costume. That's
Yeah, but he's wearing a Batman costume the whole time. Like that part was the part that really tickled me about it.
like Batman on paper sounds ridiculous.
So I keep hearing a low thumping. Is that your
That's me.
that's your Apple Pencil? You're like
Yeah,
talking
I
through
can
it's fine. I'm like trying to make sure I've got it right. You got you're on Discord with the iPad, and then I'm hearing the bump 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 of your Apple Pencil
Yeah.
hitting the near the mic.
Yeah, that was I was pretty aggressive with those few taps.
Okay.
The tablet that you're working on, is it like, do you normally work on that sort of like disconnected screen tablet? Because I
Oh
thought
yeah.
before you used to work on
It's not a
like a
screen
Cintiq.
tablet. It's just a pen tablet.
Yeah. And do you like you've obviously worked on screen tablets before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have an iPad Pro, and I used to work on a Cintiq when I was. I had a Cintiq at all my office jobs. Like they always had Cintiqs in the office. I've never owned a Cintiq though.
Right.
I've like had a couple opportunities to get one for cheap, and I've just like basically just said "fooey."
Right.
Don't
What do
need it,
you
don't want
what do you like about your tablet versus a screen tablet?
Number one is like the ease of posture because I'm able to rest. You can say I can rest my elbow.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I don't need to hold my arm above the desk while I work. Like if I had to work with my elbow up like this, I would get really tired through the shoulder and it would start to ache through my back as well. But being able to put my elbow down like this eases a lot of the rest of my posture very naturally. So that's awesome.
Is that the main thing?
And it's like, I need to make fairly small movements overall in order to it sits on my desk in a comfortable way where I've got just like my workspace here, and I don't need to make very large movements, and so I can comfortably sit for like long work methods and long work sessions,
Makes sense.
and yeah, just be comfortable the whole time, which is great.
Right on.
I mean, when people are first getting into art, I find that a lot of them are tempted to want to go and get like a big display tablet um, or like an iPad Pro.
Yeah.
And I think unless you already own an iPad Pro for whatever other reason, I think it's a total waste. I think that people should try out one of these first. I think that they're really easy to use. They're really like, I think people assume that it's going to be really hard to like figure out what your hand is doing if you can't see it working. But I don't find that to be the case at all. Because like you're looking at like one little spot on the screen, you got your cursor, and you're making these small movements. You're not having like, because I'm not using it for drawing, so I'm not having to make any kind of sweeping marks or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I started out with a small like 8-inch Wacom tablet that worked pretty good. For me, I like the mobility of moving around and doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think you're right that a lot of people who are thinking about getting a tablet will shy away from the cheaper option because they feel like they're intimidated by the learning curve of not drawing directly on Surface.
I don't know if there is much of a learning curve. I remember when I first got a tablet when I was starting college, and I got it, and I just immediately felt like I was comfortable with it. I was born with a stylus in my hand.
I guess so. How long were you drawing before you got your tablet?
A few years.
A few years.
It's an interesting question, though. I hadn't really considered that like my prior drawing experience affected that at all.
Yeah, because I wonder if somebody's learning how to draw at the same time they're learning how to draw on a tablet, it might be more difficult. But at the same time, if they're learning the skills anyways, it might actually be easier. I don't know. Because I was learning both at the same time. Like I started learning how to draw, and I basically got the Wacom tablet right away. And to me, it didn't feel like it was a big deal learning.
No, I mean, I think trying to draw on a pen tablet like this, I think is kind of annoying. So that's why I've always like started drawings off in pencil when I'm doing my mainline work.
Mm-hmm. Do you still do that?
Yeah.
With your arrow pieces? Yeah.
Yep. Here, I can show you. There's underneath my temperance painting. There's pencil drawing here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's not super clean, but I mean, it's the gestures there.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. I didn't know that you still work in pencil first.
Yeah, and then I have these little pencil originals that I can sell off if somebody wants them at some point.
You hear
All
that,
right,
chat?
so I have I've spent way more time on this than this step than I normally do. I've completely reallocated my time differently than I normally do. And I wonder if part of the experience I'm having with like the messiness that I like struggling with is like a byproduct of my brush and not necessarily like my work philosophy. It's probably a combination of both, because throughout the blouse, I've been not really trying to break things down super geometrically. I've been getting too close and too granular with it, I think. But I have this like really worked out value step right now. So might as well get into color. Somebody was asking me, oh, what about color? They asked me like 2 hours ago, and I was like, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Yeah, I'm not there yet. So I'm here now. It's already past the point where I'd normally be logging out, but it's been nice talking with you, and I've just kind of like zoomed in and like gotten a ton done. I'm kind of inches away from finishing this thing as far as the study is concerned. So let's take a look at some color options. I forgot what I was going to do with it. It was like 2 hours ago. I was considering this. Okay, so this one might work. So here's what I'm looking for. the reason why I like the gradient maps is because it allows me to sort of dynamically assign different regions to different color temperatures based off their values. So like I'm seeing, I've got a couple options here. You can usually go warmer highlights and cooler shadows, or cool highlights and warm shadows, right? So if I want to go for warm highlights, this one's doing pretty good. It's going kind of like lighter and neutral through the shadow bits. So I'm not going to get like weird saturated digital looking shadows, and I'm getting like all the oranges falling on like the brightest highlights. So before I even change the blending mode, I already can kind of anticipate that this is going to give me like, since going over the grays, we're getting these like, cooler tones through all of the shadowed bits, and then we're getting these like warmer highlights and sort of separating it out into two different gray tones. We could go even harder with it if we wanted to. And now we're starting to get some like really interesting, like ugly 1970s like wall paint kind of background, which I'm kind of enjoying, but it's going overboard on like the amount of color temperature that I'm seeing inside here. I really don't want the highlights to be this bright orange on the face. So if I'm going to use this gradient map, I'm going to end up having to paint over that shit. So there's like elements of this that I like and I don't like. Let's see what else we got. I mean, I could go really hard into like a single color palette here, or a single like analogous color scheme if I wanted to. Totally blasting out all the color, and then I could bring in like a really bright yellow over the top of the blouse and have that pop while everything else is sort of a paler gold. That's an option.
So right now you're working with a hard light layer, and you're playing with the opacity to kind of see how it plays.
Yeah,
with
because like some of these, it's like this is too much, right? Yeah. So I'm sort of seeing, what does it look like if I turn it down a little bit so it's not breaking the contrast quite so bad. Is it doing anything really interesting to this that like gives it like a good take on the original image, or like maybe is doing something? There's some interplay between the colors that I'm finding particularly interesting. I mean, it's possible to push forward with something really surreal like this, but I don't think that's where I'm going today. Here we're ending up with kind of an inverse of like the first one, where now we've got these like cool mint colors from like the background that are sort of coming in over the highlights, and then the shadows are all, in these oranges. If we soft light it, turn it all the way up, we're getting way too much orange throughout the body for it to feel good. So what I can do to try to like get a little bit more diversity in there is to just clamp this further down. That way I'm getting like more mix of like blue and orange across the different planes inside the form. And if it's too intense, I can turn it down. One of the other options is to not gradient map this, because like some of my favorite ones is actually just me putting glazing color up over certain spots. So like I might also just mask this so that it's only gradient mapping a portion of the figure. This one's interesting because it's like it's bringing a lot of the mid-tones. It's like exaggerating it so that the darks are getting darker, the lights are getting lighter, and the mid-tones are kind of like all flattening out. These can be really interesting sometimes. Though, if I wanted to get this like pop of red, I need to pull it up a little higher in the scheme.
Do you know the painter Piotr Jablonski?
Yes.
It's giving it that kind of look where he really has these cool, like he's really, really subtle values in the lights, and then really dominant, decisive darks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a really cool look, and so having a gradient map that helps push me in that direction is always really valuable. That's what I usually get out of like this one and this one. It's like a light. I have a cool and a warm version of the same thing. Here's the cool version. Here's the warm version. And so that can be really good, especially because I was talking about like flattening out the values on just like the skin tones. So like if I wanted to do something like this, I could, have it up at 100%. Mask it out. What? There it is. And then only paint it in on like select elements, like just on the skin tones. Because if it's doing an effect that I really like, but I don't want to have that effect over the whole thing, I can just use the mask that's already built into it and just like be a little bit more selective. Then I can have that kind of like, I'm imagining like the different elements in these pieces being like different shaders, like on a 3D model.
Right.
So I want to kind of have a different shader for the blouse, different shader for the skirt, different shader for the skin tone. And so some of that's going to come from like the way that I'm painting it, and some of it is going to come from like what tools I use on which parts. Typically when I get to this step, like I don't do a lot of intense consideration. I just say like, I flip through a few options and I go like, oh, I think I can figure out how to make that look cool. And I push forward because I'm trying to be really picky with my time. And today I'm being super lax with my time. Already like way over time on this. As I said, I've got the house to myself, So let's see. Let's try some of these.
Oh yeah, and you can, quite interesting.
I have so little value variation on the skin tone already that these are not giving the kind of like dynamic, interesting results that I like to get out of a gradient map.
Do you like the gradient maps that you're flipping through right now, or these ones that you've built yourself, or these ones that are kind of stock in Photoshop and that you just modulate as you need?
Some of them are stock Photoshop assets that I from like Photoshop version 13.
Wow.
The stock ones, the stock selection in like Photoshop 23 is like it has way more, but they're less diverse. And then I've built a bunch of custom ones. Whenever I make a new one for a painting and I like it, I hit the save button. I would imagine if I had been diligent about that, I would probably have the whole thing full, but I like keep forgetting to do that whenever I make a new gradient I like. And then I reuse them a lot. Like once I have enough, like I can kind of just, the temptation is to always reuse one rather than to try to build one from scratch. This one keeps coming up over and over again because it has this like blues in the midtones, but then it tends to create these kind of like warm terminals, which is like the only gradient in this batch that I think is doing something really interesting to the skin tone here. By giving me these like warmer terminals in the face. But I wonder if I just, I wonder if I want something else for this color. I'm trying to think like what's in here. This is like, it's so neutral and flat inside like the shadowed area on the model. It's tempting to want to just let that stay black and white or like be really gray. Might even be totally gray. So that's a lot of work for very little color there. But yeah, being like whatever the opposite of judicious is with my time right now. There was another gradient map that was doing something like weird that I'm trying to remember which one it was. It's giving me those really ugly colors in the background. Like green's kind of interesting. Like a green background, then like a much cooler. Like this is giving me like, this is a really dynamic palette. It's kind of ugly, but the dynamism of it is like capturing my attention. It's that same gradient map again. And, you know, it's giving me a background. It's giving me a color field in the background that I actually really like that color. And then bringing that blue into the skin tone. Let me try this as a base and see what happens if I build on top of it. So for the blouse, I have a couple options here. I mean, my default obviously is hard light, right? Go a little brighter with this maybe. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is like trying different blending modes to see if they like lead themselves to interesting follow-up steps that are different from what I normally do.
Yeah, because you usually use hard light and soft light, right?
Yeah.
'Cause I remember we talked about overlay a bit, and you didn't like how it messed with the values as much as.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been thinking about, like as I've been experimenting with these, is like, you know, some people really like multiply. So like if I take multiply and I hit this really, really hard until it's like, it's this bright color. So it's not going to go too intensely dark because it can't. And even though multiply only darkens stuff. But you can see how I'm getting some interesting color mixing happening. Like when I put this over the whites and stuff, it brings it to that bright yellow for the highlights and the hair. And I've got this like interesting mix of like greens and oranges and stuff throughout the blouse, which is an interesting base. It's not like good on its own, but it's kind of like interesting as like a broader idea. And then I can, on a normal layer above it, take a yellow, like a really bold yellow, and then start to build up highlights manually on top of it. So instead of trying to get all the colors I'm going to use, instead create like a base for which I'm going to lay on a couple of like accent colors. And like that's part of the way I was able to get some of these results, was instead of trying to get a gradient map that was going to end up at those at these colors, because like it's kind of impossible. Instead, it's like using gradient map to create like a general color palette, and then picking like vibrant key colors, and then adding them in normally over the top, and just spreading them out. And because there's like a saturated base for them to lay on top of, it doesn't end up like where they blend doesn't end up too muddy or like gross looking. Instead, I end up with like this like really saturated, gorgeous color, because I'm like starting with pure tones that I'm working over the top of the saturated ground.
Yeah, it has a lot of depth. I think you see this with like oil painters when they have their underpainting. looks the colors are not what it's going to be. It's laying a sort of foundation for what's coming.
Yeah,
on
it's
top.
sort
And I
of
guess
more of a
oils.
foundational thing because like the process that I use in a lot of my paintings is that I'm trying to get the color palette kind of established through through the color step, and then I'm trying to take that and immediately just blend all those colors together to make the subsequent like finished piece. But this presumes there's another step in between the two where I have the like dynamically created color from the blending modes as a base, and then I'm just building another layer of like painting on top of it.
Right. I think that's nice too, because then it keeps everything is cohesive from the get-go. Everything is kind of bounded in this sort of color language as you're building on top.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the thing I like about it is that it seems like it's allowing me to create color palettes that were previously impossible with my other method. And so it's not that I think it's necessarily doing something more like better with color, but it's like I'm discovering where the boundaries are in my work method that have prevented me from going further with like there's certain just boundaries of territory I can't enter in with my previous work method. And this one is able to march past those barriers and end up in new places, which is cool. It's not doesn't mean it's like a better method, but like it does between the two different methods, I'm able to like traverse a larger creative space.
So now you're using because before, I think up to this point, you were using a textured brush, and now you're using your...
Yeah, now that I'm
Trident.
getting closer to finishing it, I'm like using my smooth round brush. So I'm gonna figure out like what color do I add over the top of this? Do I want it, or do I want to take the color out of the skin tone? Because like I really liked some of the ones that just have black and white on the skin tone. I've already kind of masked it out a little bit on this layer. You know, because the blue doesn't feel like a colored light. It feels like she's got blue skin, which is not what I'm interested in. Come on. I'm scratching my chin over here. You can't see it, but I'm scratching my chin. Oh, that would explain why that was a weird color. Okay. Really, really bright orange. What the? Oh, this is my eraser. Yep, wrong layer. Okay, right layer, right tool. There we go. Boom. I hear a little boom every once in a while coming through your iPad. It's funny.
Damn it. I'm trying to be so gentle now.
You don't have to worry about it.
I wonder if it's because I could probably find a better way to cushion my mic on my table. Because right now it's sitting on an upside down mug. Probably doesn't help.
Upside down mug?
Yeah.
I'm feeling so lost. Trying to talk through my decisions out loud, combined with me trying to plan ahead, is like, it's feeling like a bridge too far for me to cross. Like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah. And you're also doing something new to your process.
Yeah. It's like one too many things. Kind of like this. Kind of like that. I think it's time to maybe just like work intuitively and stop freaking out. My brain feels boiled. I also like, now that I've been going on for a long time, like I'm starting to get to a point of mental exhaustion on top of like everything else. So what I think I need to do is I need to start speeding things back up, thinking less, and getting to the end.
Yeah. You thought a lot today. You thought as much as you
Boy,
probably
I did a lot
needed.
of thinking. I sure didn't get. I was like, you know what? I'm thinking about this so good, and I'm being so diligent and so careful. This one's going to be the best one I've ever made, and I'm going to like be referencing this in the future for how good it is. And instead, I'm just like close to the finish line, way overdue, totally wanting to move on, and like not having any idea how to close out.
That means you're learning, Pete.
Getting that learning feeling straight to the
Yeah.
dome. Bopped on the forehead by my own dang ruler.
Mm.
Yeah, if I can get these colors where I want them, I can just push it around a little bit to get to the finish line, and I'm good. I'm golden.
Yeah, I think the like the shirt's looking really nice. It's really poppy and it has all that nice play with the cool blues. I think it looks really good.
Oh yeah, you know what? Maybe that's part of what it is. Maybe it's like I like this, like ugly 1970s green. I wonder if I mix that into some of these shadowed areas.
Oh,
If I can just darken this orange a little bit. Space. Maybe I just. Oh, the orange reflection under the chin feels really like a thing. Oh, but then there'd be the reflection over here too. So your shirt's
Oh,
like
that-
glowing.
yeah.
Make a new layer, set it to multiply, and then blend the background. Huh? Wow, it really ends up that color? Jesus. I wonder what would happen if I like brought in some of this green over the top of the skin as like a sort of ambient color. To tie it together. Not bad.
Would you add more orange to the bottom for him as well?
I mean, there's not really, the orange is representing the reflection from the shirt, and because there's not enough light hitting over here, we're not seeing that reflection across the arm.
Right.
I think I might just leave the skin black and white. Scratch my chin again. What if I soft like this instead? Trying to do this with I don't know why I'm trying to do this with multiply. It's like throwing me off. I feel like I utterly failed to simplify this hand. It's like all craggly and exactly the kind of like too much attention to every detail that I'm trying to avoid here. This is kind of nice. Just keeping the orange flowing through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a bit softer.
And then I can also kind of transition it a little bit. Get a little bit of those softer shapes like through the form broadly instead of getting them in the details and doing tons of blending. Okay. I'm oh my god, I'm at 3 hours. Oh no, I started late. I've got like 20 minutes and it'll be a 3-hour study, which is way too long. But I'm gonna be I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in some final details at this point, and then I'm putting a lid on it. Be done.
Right on.
Trying to make it look efficient and effortless, like that was the plan from the beginning, and instead I'm like massively over time and mentally exhausted, and I'm nowhere near any of my artistic goals on this. So I'm gonna take another swing at it tomorrow and see like if I'm a better artist tomorrow, because
You've achieved mental discomfort.
oh, absolutely, 100%.
Victory.
Yeah, I'm definitely at the point where I feel like I've got my brain workout. I feel like I'm at the last mile of a brain marathon here. hoping that like all of the intense work that I put into it up to this point is going to make this finishing stage super easy, because so far it feels really easy.
It looks so close, man.
Man, if I could have gotten here in half the time, I think I'd be like massively happy with where it ended up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you spent a lot of time at the beginning thinking about how you're going to arrange like the shapes and the
Yeah.
and I mean once that process becomes more intuitive too, you're going to be able to.
Yeah, I'm gonna take another swing at like a similar approach tomorrow to try to like do better shape simplification. Because like what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to pick like where I'm gonna do a smooth transition, where I'm gonna do a hard transition, and trying to have like less in between. This is the part where I feel like a lot of people get when they're like, so the question is like, okay, so if you feel like you don't understand painting, like broadly, you know, I'm a little confused in where people are getting stuck. And I get the suspicion it's maybe at this stage where it's like actually picking edges and making smooth transitions and stuff. And again, I feel like this is the easiest part. So I really am interested in learning more about what people's experiences are, like where they're like actually feeling stuck, because like this feels fast and easy, like really easy.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people have, especially beginner artists, have difficulty with edges and blending, and like the kind of, you have this sort of intuitive automatic discipline with picking out edges and pushing and pulling and you've done it so much that it's second nature to you. But I think a lot of people who are starting out, like they're just overwhelmed with the complexity of decisions, so they kind of go on autopilot, and their autopilot usually means just blend everything to oblivion.
Trying to figure out, I'm getting a little lost right here though. Figure out what there's this, some of these spots, they look, the color cools off quite a bit. I'm trying to judge sort of what the relative warmth of the different planes are on the shirt. Like up, almost feels like, I mean, there's this dark part back here. Feels like it cools off quite a bit. The highlights here, they ended up going green instead of the yellow. I think they feel pretty warm, and so I think I want to keep them warm. Pop them out. And then they kind of fold down into this like super saturated orange. Then like in the shadows we get these parts that feel like they cool down a lot. And I want to see how much of that I can bring in without it like looking crazy. Because like through here, I mean, we're getting these like much more desaturated, cooler areas. And instead of like having it just push to a slightly cooler version of the yellow, I think it's visually a lot more interesting to like push to a bolder, cool color. It's just a matter of like, I can't be totally improvisational with it. I need to like pay attention to what the reference is telling me about like where it's warm and where it's cool, so that it like actually defines like the correct shapes and isn't just like a random spray of color. But it's like they're much more subtle transitions, and so I need to read into it a lot more carefully. But like the results of it are cool to watch unfold. Like I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, bringing in that green in the shadows is really.
See, now it's like it's not just like a muddy mess. Now it feels like fun and interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm like much more engaged with it again. I was hoping, I think, to have this happen a little bit more automatically at the earlier stages based off the work I was doing. But I think that like I need to have it be at like a stage where I'm working like opaque and in color. So I think it probably was working too long at those earlier stages. That was preventing me from getting to the part where I was making the actual good creative decisions. So I'm going to see if I can maybe like not dilly-dally quite so hard tomorrow. And like see if I can get those like simple shapes blocked out faster, and then when I want to build in this like nuance and these interesting color moments, like get to that like within the first hour rather than like waiting 2 hours in to start messing with it. Hey Jay.
I don't know how I got in here on my own, but hey.
No, you have permission to be in here.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, I saw you in the like the waiting room at the beginning of the stream, and I was like, I wonder why he's in there.
Yeah, I was trying to join and it wouldn't let me, which was like the oddest part. So I was like, I must be going back to the way it was prior, which was like you had to be invited into the room.
Yeah, I'm still figuring out exactly how the permissions work, and so it's
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. I like man, I really like the colored shadows that you're doing here. I love that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and I'm like finding all these areas to like add it in.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like getting a little looser, but it's also like I like what it's doing more, and so I need to like I'm trying to be fairly careful about the way I brush it in while being fast still. Because I need to wrap this shit up.
Yeah, it's late for you, man.
Yeah. Well, I was streaming for like 4 hours yesterday, so like,
Yes.
Almost immediately these things have started to drift past the 2 hour limit and into like double that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess like you wouldn't be doing it if you weren't getting anything out of it. So at least like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is that I like about this so much. It's because it's like a tertiary green. It's like blue green. It's more gray, isn't it? It's like, I think relative to the yellow, it looked very colorful, but that's like gray, isn't it? It's like straight up gray.
It's a
Yeah,
really desaturated yellow.
Yeah,
It looks turquoise, but it's a deeply
Yeah.
desaturated yellow.
That's one of the, I love grays, in like, this is a little bit more than gray, but I like gray a lot because
Yeah.
it just takes on the complementary color of whatever the primary like tones are in your piece. So like,
Yeah, it's like every
Like
color.
awesome.
It's actually kind of the most prismatic color
Yep.
is gray, just because it takes on properties of whatever is around it.
Yep.
And so it's like this sponge for other colors. It's kind of magical.
Yep.
Like on its own, it does nothing, but like in context, it can do incredible stuff.
Yeah, it was your piece when Luca was painting it. He pulled up your like art for it, and he's like, because at first he started going blue on the wings, and he's like, wait a second, I'm willing to, and he was really struggling with it. He's like, I'm willing to bet that if I color pick this is actually like just gray, like straight up gray, because you get a lot of warm tones in that art piece.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like lo and behold, it was indeed like almost straight up mid-tone gray, and it was just taking on a very blue tone because everything around it was very warm. And
And that was probably by accident too, because I don't really like go and color pick that often.
Right.
So it was probably finding its way to gray by being like balanced, being like kind of the fulcrum point that everything else was balancing on.
Yeah, I love color theory. I think it's probably the thing I love most about art is color. I guess I don't know. That's just so not true. I like color like color relationship a lot. Like what you're doing here. Like this is right up my alley. We talked about it a little bit in Ocelot then. Like how much I love tertiary colors and how I think they're the best color palette.
Mm-hmm.
And
The best color palette.
Yep.
The other
stick
color
to it.
palette fucking sucks.
Yeah,
So
man, fuck
lame.
primaries, fuck secondaries. Give me those tertiaries. And the reason I love it so much is because you can put all of them next to each other, and because they're all like inherently desaturated because of like how you create them, you can just like put them next to each other, and it's not abrasive to your eyes. Kind of like what you're doing right now, and like that's why I love tertiary colors. I also love that bounce light on the under the chin. That's dope.
I mean, it's so bold on the reference.
Yeah, I just wonder that if there's supposed to be some like on the neck.
There is. I was just thinking the same thing. But I don't need to go back to the previous layer because I've got access to my, at this point I can just smush everything around and I can get it wherever I want.
I also wonder if that's like if those bounce lights were actually edited to be more saturated.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, the photographer probably edited the original content of this image quite heavily.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that and I'm like yeah, it's a bounce light shining into like a shadowed area, so it would be like relatively quite saturated, but not like that. We've gone like yellow to orange red. There's like definitely some touch-ups happening there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think I'm gonna like I just really see like the contrast with all the worms. Like the highlight to me looks so blue that I think like actually going all the way into blue for the highlights, I think is gonna be the correct choice here.
I'm just like barely seeing the reference.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. But I think the value jump's like really high too.
Yeah, but it ends up almost totally blown out. And
This reference is insane because it's like so far from reality. I love it. Like it's such a good like study piece for that reason. Yeah, that's dope. I like that a lot. What a great reference. You pick really good reference. Like that's one of the things I'm
My
always.
Pinterest just loves me. I love Pinterest. It just throws the coolest shit at me, and I'm sure
Yeah.
tons of people are seeing the same images. Like I found that like a lot of the stuff I thought was like really cool from Pinterest. It turns out everybody's got those same images in their reference folder. It's part of the reason I was starting to go like, oh, I should use more AI reference. Like, I can't just like have the same 100 images as everybody else.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's outside of my territory. I don't do nearly as many studies as I should. So maybe. Well, I'm not really quite there yet, to be honest. Like, me doing a study would be like looking at one of my favorite painters and being like, okay, let me try to replicate this. It's just like wouldn't happen. There'd be.
Yeah, I got to do a master's study one of these days. That's a good point. I gotta actually try to replicate the work of one of my favorite painters and see what they're doing and see what I can do about replicating it.
I've heard you say this a few times, like there's artists you really like, and I always find it very interesting that like some of my favorite artists also have, like, obviously you're a human, so like everyone has someone they really like or look up to, but who is that for you?
I mean, it's like Brahm, Beksinski, James Jean, Wayne Barlow.
Interesting. Just like in hell working through 1,000 magic cards right now at my job.
Magic cards?
Oh yeah, like that's I work at a I work at a card shop.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? You like sorting singles? What are you?
Right now I'm packing singles for TCG orders, but I've just listed like 750 cards and like alphabet and set and like alphabetized, set and conditioned. So yeah, pays the bills, surprisingly. Oh shit. And speaking of like Magic the Gathering artists, like I just discovered Karl Kopinski as a human. Like I've seen his art obviously, but I didn't realize who it was.
What do you
Karl
mean who it
Kopinski's
was?
Like right, exactly. I should have.
What I mean, what
But-
do you mean? What do you mean by that? That like he's like a guy?
Well, like I've seen his art, and I didn't really know. Like a lot of the times, I enjoy Magic art, and I enjoy it almost like painfully casually, where I'm like, oh, like that's really nice, and I don't look down at the name, which is
Oh.
like,
You just realized Karl
know.
Kopinski's like a really good painter.
yeah, like I just realized who he was. I didn't like. I've heard the name before, and I was like, and then I actually took the time to go look at his work, and I'm like, well, fuck me.
All his like weird historical paintings and stuff. Like his really intense
Yeah.
historical paintings.
He's done some stuff for like Games Workshop, some like stuff for Games Workshop that I really like. Like his Beastman work is awesome. But yeah, like I don't know, and I think it was funny because it was Jackalak who mentioned it to me. He's like, I really look up to Karl Kopinski's sketches. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna go look into him because every time someone mentions their favorite artist, I usually go look it up. I try to expand my artist like vocabulary every day.
There's a lot of artists. I mean, especially historically. Like it's hard to know everybody. And then there's like
Yeah.
bubbles too, because like people will list off like a bunch of names being like the biggest names ever in some industry, like, you know,
Yeah.
or like be like, oh, you know, these guys, they're the biggest names in the world, and I'm like, I haven't heard of any one of those guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially when it
That
comes to like
happened to-
comics, like people mention the biggest comic artists in the world, and I'm like, I've heard of Jim Lee, and after that, it's like nothing.
Right. Yeah, like I mentioned Jesper today, and people are like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "Wait, that's crazy to me," because I think he's just like unreal with acrylics. Um, that's how we got onto tertiary colors today. I showed someone Jesper's stuff, and they're like, "Man, I don't know really what I really like love about this." And I'm like, "Oh, you have to break it down," because I've broken down his artwork so many times. I've done studies where I didn't actually like attempt to recreate it, but I do this a lot where I do studies and I'll really break down what I like about someone's art.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't apply it because it's like hard to apply a lot of the things I like in 2D art to a 3D space. Especially like Jesper's style of using saturation contrast. It's very difficult, and he does a lot of backlighting, and backlighting is like historically terrible in miniature painting. So yeah.
Well, you just spin the model around, then it's front lighting again.
Yeah, I guess. But the back, like, this is a sculptor issue. The backs of things are just like never exciting enough.
Yeah.
Because, for one, the concept art is usually pretty weak. And the concept artist didn't think about the thing in a 3D space. And then that just like almost gets directly transplanted. And it's just, it's a foundational thing that people don't think about when they think about a 3D miniature, because for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's something I'm trying to figure out, and it's something I'm trying to avoid with my first miniature. So we'll see if I can do it. It must be harder than it sounds. Otherwise, I feel like more people would have figured it out,
Yeah. I'm like in tremendous hurry to try to finish this because I'm just feeling like, okay, it's hour 3. I think it's the longest I've ever taken on one of these studies, and my brain is killing me. I'm just feeling totally mentally exhausted, and I'm just like, I got to get done. I got to finish it.
Yeah, man,
I don't want to do a bad job on it. So
right.
I still want to make good choices. But now that I'm rushing, I feel like I'm getting the parts out of it that I want, except for the likeness. I am blowing the likeness.
I will say that if this was like a study in lighting, I think you fucking nailed it. But I don't know what the study was for. Like, I really like some things could be pushed higher in value, but generally speaking, I really like this. For 3 hours, it's just bonkers. I would never be able to do this in my life.
I feel like I've done better in 2 hours. So I'm like,
okay, fair enough. You know better, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But a big part of this is me trying to hold myself to higher standards. So the plan is I'm going to be like, fuck, I fucked that one up yesterday. And then tomorrow I am going to try to address the things that are bothering me about the study from today.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as I do that day by day, I'm just going to keep pushing myself to be learning more and more. Because there's no learning without discomfort.
Yep. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I think, although I'm a little bit on the opposite end of that spectrum where I kind of torture myself more than I should, which is why I'm on a painting break, because I started developing a really awesome toxic relationship with my hobby.
I never torture myself about painting. That's the problem, is I feel like I was slowing down or stopping learning because I was avoiding all discomfort. And now I'm pushing back into discomfort quite enthusiastically, and I'm learning again. So part of the reason I want to keep them down to an hour or two is so that I'm not just burning out.
Right.
All right, here we go. I'm getting really close.
Now I am curious, before you dip,
yeah,
what was your favorite piece that you did for Wizards of the Coast? I have a favorite of yours, but I want to know yours.
I don't know. I mean, I've said Erebos in the past just because it was one that like I got to do like the concept art and the illustration for, which is not typical. So I got like a greater sense of ownership over him, like creatively.
Oh yeah, I mean, God, that is a really incredible one.
I don't know. I don't have like a there's like only a few moments in like my career as a magic artist where I look back at it and go like, damn, that was a really good painting. Like there's
Really?
bits of them that I think are pretty good, but like there's a lot of them I'm just like, ugh, I don't know why I couldn't figure out how to paint good when it was like not for me. Like I look back at a lot of personal pieces from the same time period, and I feel very fondly towards them. And it's like not just an ownership thing. It's like I just think I'm just a better painter when I'm working for myself.
Yeah, that's why. I stopped taking commissions for that reason. For like miniature painting, I had to stop. I had to stop. For one, it was really deep. Like I couldn't motivate myself to do it a lot, and then like the added issue of, man, I just don't care as much about this as I'd like to, and it reflected terribly. Like it was very obvious. So yeah, I ended up giving them like huge discounts, and then sometimes I'll just give them their money back because I'm like, this was so bad. I'm so sorry. Like this is more of an embarrassment than anything. So I feel I definitely feel you on that. I don't know. I think Farrakha's really good.
Farrakha is painting wise probably one of my best ones that I had done for Magic. I think I won an award for that one. I think I have a trophy for Farrakha. Or I was nominated for an award, maybe. I don't remember.
And I still think that you have the best primetime art, but
that one was so bad when I first turned it in that they like handed it back to me and said keep going. I was like, oh,
no way.
I don't like that painting at all. And like the first draft of it was just like so deeply unfinished that they just rejected it.
I will say that like all of your pieces,
I have to say it was fair. Like I'm not. Yeah, it was like the correct choice.
I have to say like generally all of your pieces that have like desaturated skin, like Eater of Hope, Erebos is Titan, like
Erebos is Titan. I think it was a pretty good painting.
Yeah, like I think
I was doing my best Phil Hale impression on that one.
Like I like those three a lot. Eater of Hope is I think compositionally I like Eater of Hope maybe the most. It's very simple. But I'm big on like hand gesture and like the story that the shape of the character is like telling. There's like a real sense of movement and intent with that piece that I like a lot. It's not, it's a frame captured in movement rather than like something you've drawn in a vacuum almost, which is something I see like a lot, just like in general. But I mean, fuck it. I mean, this is Animar's dope. But
yeah, Animar was my first card. I kind of like did one of my best ones ever on the first try.
OP, just a heads up, you're at 3 hours 10 minutes.
Yep, I'm gonna call it. I'm like pretty close to being happy with this, to be honest. Like, now that I've like reworked the color. Hell yeah. Okay. So I didn't get into every inch of it, but I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm gonna call it done. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do one. I've been doing a little bit of a flourish with the backgrounds a little bit. We're at the last minute. I do a little bit of extra like shading on the backgrounds to give them a little bit more texture and depth. Just build on the existing like loose texture stuff. Spend just a minute on this. I mean, that's like the background from the reference anyway. It's just the same thing.
What's the project you're working on after this? More Angelarium stuff?
Yeah, I got to finish that Temperance card. I got to start never posted the works in progress on my Patreon, and it's like, not only is it past the due date, but I didn't even start posting like the works in progress, which is a bummer. And I've got about 40 emails piled up from this week because I've been streaming during the times I normally do email. So
Shit.
I have all that going on. So I'm gonna start working that out in a minute. I'm gonna take a break, and then I'm gonna start managing my other side of the business a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good luck, man. I won't bother you. I'll let you get to it. You take it easy, man. See everyone else.
See you around. All right, now I'm spending more time than I thought I was going to commit on the background even. All right, I'm calling it done.
Getting sucked in.
Yeah, I want to be good. I want to have good art. I'm like hunting. My eye is hunting for areas that I want to like revise. Oh, I found one. I'm not willing to let go of. The rear shoulder has this really bright yellow highlight on it. There we go.
Oh yeah, dude.
And I don't think I could live
Let it go.
myself if I left that.
Let it go.
So I'm gonna say that's the last one and calling it.
That's it.
Number 37. All right, now to post it on the Discord, I'm gonna hit the Discord button here. If you guys want to come on the art Discord and hang out with me while I'm painting, or see the community. We got a really active community. There's a ton of people over the voice chat channel right next to me that are just chilling, working on art and stuff. And then we've got a channel for dailies. If you want to do daily studies and you want to see what a bunch of other people are doing for their daily studies and like challenge yourself to get better, this dailies channel is always popping. It's always got people posting their latest stuff. And I'm in there every work day posting a brand new painting. All right. And so that is the end of the stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thanks for Adam for hanging out. And I'm going to go, rest my hand. I'm dying. We'll see you all around.
See you, Pete.
Bye.